Nazis vanished without a tree. Books they tell of their defeat in 45. They all came out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died. They say the prisoner of Spandau was a symbol of defeat. Whilst Hess remained in prison, then the fascists they would beat. So the promise of an Aryan world would never materialize. So why did they all come out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died? The world is riddled with maggots. The maggots are getting fat. They're making a tasty meal of all the bosses and bureaucrats. They're taking over the boardrooms and they're fat and full of pride. And they all came out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died. So if you meet with these historians, I'll tell you what to say. Tell them that the Nazis never really went away. They're out there burning houses down and peddling racist lies. And we'll never rest again until every Nazi dies.
Woke up one morning and there were soldiers. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Woke up one morning and there were soldiers. The invasion had begun. Lend me your shoulder, we'll stand together. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Lend me your shoulder, we'll stand together. But I feel my time has come, and if I die here for the resistance, oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. And if I die here for the resistance, you must lay me in my grave among the flowers upon the mountain. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Among the flowers upon the mountain, let me rest among the brave. Someday the people will pick the flowers. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Someday the people will pick the flowers, and they will remember my name. This is the flower of the resistance. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. This is the flower of the resistance, and those who died for liberty. This is the flower of the resistance. Oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. This is the flower of the resistance, and those who died for liberty. This is the flower of our resistance, and those who died for liberty.
Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
My daddy was a miner and I'm a miner's son, and I'll stick with the Union till every battle's won.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab or will you be a man?
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Don't scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I was born in the Dublin street where the boy drums do beat, and the lovely English people walked all over us. And every single night when they tell come home tight, he'd invite the neighbours out with this chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like Galloway from the green and lovely lace of Gilshandra. Tell us how you slew them old Arabs 2 by 2, like the Zulus they had knives, bows and arrows. Of how brave you faced one with your 16-pounder gun, and you frightened all the natives to the marrow. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like Galloway from the green and lovely lace of Gilshandra. Let us hear you tell how you stand the brave Parnell and taught him well and truly persecuted. Where are the stares and jeers that you proudly let us hear when our heroes of 16 were executed? Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like Galloway from the green and lovely lace of Gilshandra.
Ding dong, the witch is dead. Witch all with the wicked witch. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Witch all with the wicked witch. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead.
Oh, come out, you pretty sons, come out and fight without your guns. Show your wife how you won medals up in Derry. You murdered 16 men and you'll do the same again. So get out of here and take your bloody army. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like Galloway from the green and lovely lace of Gilshandra. Oh, come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like Galloway from the green and lovely lace of Gilshandra.
Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Hello there, everybody. How the devil are we all? I'm very well, I thank you for asking. How have we been today, chatterinos? Hopefully you've been superbly well. I spent the afternoon with my nephew and niece. It was delightful. Until my nephew decided to fall asleep for several hours and then throw up in my car a little bit. Don't worry, I beat him viciously and then I cleaned my car, so everything's fine. For legal reasons, I did not actually beat my nephew, who is, 2 years old. Actually, no, he's about 3 now, isn't he? God. Anyway. But no, we had a lovely time. We went and saw some ducks. They like ducks, they like animals and stuff, so we went to a pond thing with ducks. It was beautiful. Anyway, so today I found out that Starmer tried to quash a climate report. Why? Yeah, that's not remotely surprising. He's a piece of shit. Oh, don't step on an electric plug. I've stepped on an electric plug before. Fucking hell, it's awful. Right on the soft bit of the underside of my foot. Ugh. Not nice. Can we tread on Mega Blocks? I don't know what that is, but yeah, go for it. It's a free world. Yeah. Starmer is scum, FYI. Well, I mean, you did not need to tell me or indeed my audience that. I knelt on a bead. Well, it depends what the bead's made out of, doesn't it? If it's like made out of bread, you're fine. If it's made out of, like, I don't know, steel or something, yeah, that could be quite painful. Starmer is a whore for capital, so... Well, yeah, I mean, that is also correct. You stepped on a live wire? What the fuck? What are you... What? What are you doing, boy? Thank you, Morrow, with Laughing Disco for 250 jewels. I still don't know what a jewel does or is. But thank you. I do appreciate that. And thank you, Philith, who says...
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
He did not say that.
Sup with yourself, Kevlar. Is there a playlist of all the songs in your intro? Please spend this on drugs. You owe the villa.
Ah, you couldn't even type in up the villa properly. Dickhead. How does it feel being bottom of the table, lads? That's all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm only playing. No, thank you, Phil. I don't have a playlist, but maybe I should do that. What songs do I have there? I have...
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
I definitely don't, Gennaro, and you're going to shut the fuck up for a bit, you little prick. Although you did tell the Israeli players to fuck off, so, you know, I'm with you on that. Anyway, the songs I have on there are... There's an electro dance version of Come Out You Black and Tans, which I can find. I'll have to find it for you. I'll have to put together a list or anything. But basically, the answer to your question is no, there isn't a list, but I should probably make one. There's a fantastic version of Ciao Bella by, oh, guys, an American guy. I have to find that as well. There's we don't often get to it because I essentially wanted a playlist slightly longer than I usually have as like the opening bit. But there's who sings it? Leadbelly. There's a Leadbelly song called Mr. Hitler, which is a song about how Hitler's a cunt. But we don't often get to that one. And then there's The Day the Nazi Died by... Sorry, Till All Nazis Die, or whatever the fuck the song's called, by Chumbawamba, who you may remember from such hits as Their Only Hit, Tub Thumping, I Get Knocked Down, But I Get Up Again, etc., etc. Anyway, yeah. The Union one. What about the Nazis? The Union one. Oh, you mean on the intro for the Happy Hour one, where I've got the electro dance version of the Union's version of the of Dixie, that song? I'll have to find that one out for you as well. PS and I are shite. I mean, that is also true, yeah. To quote Alan Partridge, they've rebadged it, you fools. It's still the fucking Royal Ulster Constabulary. Oh, which side are you on? Oh, yeah, that's, yeah. I can't remember which version of that. Basically, I'll have to listen to it again, because I don't even remember what fucking version of it we have on the thing, because I don't listen to the thing. I'm busy, like, preparing whatever nonsense we're going to fucking do on the show. Or going for a piss, usually, as well. Thank you to Morrow with 10 memberships. You've been very generous tonight, Morrow. Thank you very much, my friend. You sent jewels, you sent memberships. Thank you very much, my friend. Yeah. The Union one where the lyric is, you'll be a Union man or a thug for William Morris. What? It's not William Morris, but you get me. What the fuck is... Who said anything about fucking William Morris? Talking About a Revolution by Tracy Chapman would be a great addition. I don't know, she's a bit Libby. From what I know of her, I don't really know that much. Put the Soviet anthem on. Well, I would, but that bit's as good as a joke. And it's a banger at the start of it, but it does go on a bit. Like it's the song with the biggest writing a check that the second half of the song can't cash type song in history. Like, you can't hit me with that opening bar of like smash me in the face with audio madness and then drift off into nonsense, you know? Yeah. J.H. Blair, that's the one. Thank you, The Underneath, for becoming a member on the YouTubes. Much love. Thank you very much. Anyway, enough of this. Right. When is Starmer going to form the Keir Starmer Institute for Sensible Change? Didn't he just basically do that as government? Wasn't that just his cabinet, that organisation? I think so. What's this? Other versions of... Oh, which side are you on? Okay. Well, I can't remember which one I have. The Dropkick Murphys did a version of it, naturally. You know, they did a song. They got, because they were contacted by the estate of Woody Guthrie and given all his old like writings and stuff that he never released, and they made an album out of stuff that he'd written. In addition to the fact that Shipping Up to Boston was written by Woody Guthrie as well. Although I don't think he ever recorded it, but those are his lyrics as well. About finding his wooden leg and all that bollocks. Even though he didn't have a wooden leg. Liar! Leftism pwned. Kev, you're a snooker guy, right? Did you hear about Graham Dutt? I did hear about Graham Dutt. Former world champion, which just goes to show you that snooker is not always a rewarder of the best in the class. Yeah, Graham Dutt is a pedo, officially. Found guilty of some weirdly worded pedo-related shit. Basically, he showed his junk to a child and then molested them or something. Yeah, gross. Now, you'll be surprised to hear he's a massive Rangers fan. Yeah. So much so that during his playing career as a snooker player, he used to prefer to not play off the green ball because green is associated with Glasgow Celtic, their local rivals. Anyway, he's arguably the worst person other than maybe Peter Ebdon. It's a close call. One of the worst, probably the worst world champion ever. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, he's a prick and will be going to jail for his sexual assault of children. As you do. Although, one quick note will be that the police interviewed him about these crimes in 2001 and didn't pursue any investigation beyond that. Thanks, police. Thank you to the police. It's good to know it's not just the police here or the Metropolitan Police in London that are fucking shit at protecting people. Is he in jail then? I don't know if the sentencing has happened yet or what's going on with that, but he's been found guilty. So, I mean, hopefully he's already in jail, but I don't actually know. Anyway. Yeah, it's always 13:12, chat. When the digital clock stops at 13:12, that stopped clock is always correct. Okay. Anyway. Thank you, Phil Decker, who says, my favourite version of Which Side Are You On is by the American folk metal band Panopticon. It's a belter. Is that the one I use? I don't know. They didn't prosecute Tate in the UK for years and the evidence was so strong. Well, exactly. They didn't prosecute him, at least in part because he's American and Britain have always like kowtowed to America on this shit. But also, it looked really embarrassing when the country of Romania, a country that literally Andrew Tate bragged about going to because you can just bribe police officers to not investigate your crimes. He literally openly said that shit. When even Romania were like, come on, you've taken the noncing too far. So even Britain had to be like, we cannot be seen to be worse on noncing and fucking child trafficking than Romania. It cannot be allowed. Even Britain, so replete with its establishment of paedophiles. Did you know the British establishment have more genes in common with crabs than with real humans? There's no scientific evidence for it, but it is scientific fact. Ugh. They went after him because he tried to groom a politician's daughter. Idiot. If only he'd just stuck to molesting the children of unimportant people, he'd probably be a free man today. Anyway, we are talking nonsense. Absolutely. Anyway, hopefully Gennaro Gattuso shut up enough for us to put the noises back on. What is this? Ukraine weirdness. Britain fighting for Russia killed in Ukraine. What in the ever-loving fuck is this? Okay. Oh, hang on. That is.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
No, my tech abilities are always shit, Gennaro. Thank you. Right. Let's try that again, shall we? Boom. Britain fighting for Russia killed in Ukraine. Holy shit. Okay. A British national has been killed in Ukraine while fighting for Russia. Bradley Townsend is... By the way, this is the kind of thing where if he was brown and fighting for one of our enemies, they'd describe him as a terrorist. But this is a white lad, so it's fine. Bradley Townsend...
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
Apparently Gennaro was not. Shut the fuck up. So we'll just... I'll say his name again for the third time. Bradley Townsend is said to have died following an attack by a remote-controlled FPV drone in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region. I think you mean the Donetsk People's Republic. Thank you very much. His death on the 10th of June is believed to be the first of a British citizen fighting for Russia in the conflict. Although, of course, not the first non-Russian, because that was probably Gonzalo Lira, wasn't it? Probably, I imagine. Yeah. Anyway, can we get some lols in chat for the stiff dick of poop being, just as stiff now? The 33-year-old, same age as Jesus, just saying. The 33-year-old left his home in Barnsley, South Yorkshire, probably radicalised by Bowler Hat Man, is what I reckon. Earlier this year, after telling his family he was going to Romania to nonce up some babbies, probably. The Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office confirmed it was aware of reports a British national had died in Ukraine, adding it was in contact with his family. The news emerged as Andy Burnham arrived in Kyiv for his first foreign trip as UK Prime Minister. See, another promise broken. He promised us, as Labour leader, his first foreign visit would be to Israel. Why is this man such a fucking raging anti-Semite? Disgusting. The visit coincides with the 35th anniversary of the country's independence from the Soviet Union. The government has... I know that's technically independence, because Russia was still running that shit for a long time. That's why they reacted so badly when they actually tried to gain their actual independence. The government has agreed to hand over blueprints for foreign-made components for the Scalp missile, a French version of the UK's Storm Shadow cruise missile, allowing Ukraine to produce the weapon domestically. I don't know what that really means, but okay. The video shared online the 4th of April. Townsend featured alongside Ben Stimson and Aidan Minnis, who were given Russian citizenship for fighting in the occupied Donbass region. What a fucking maltoid. Look at him. Absolute fucking virgin activity. Filmed by Stinson. Oh, sorry. In the video uploaded to a Russian recruitment account, Townsend described himself as a normal working class lad from Yorkshire. Oh yeah, it's regular the working class of Yorkshire go and fight for foreign countries. Yeah, absolutely. Filmed by Stimson and Minnis interviewing, Townsend discussed the implications of his decision to leave the UK and fight for Russia during the video. He said, I'm dying! I'm bleeding out! No! Probably. But what he actually said was, I came with the idea that I probably won't be able to go home. Definitely get persecuted if I went back. Yeah, because you're a terrorist, mate. What do you want? You're a fucking murderer. A dead murderer. Can we get some lols in chat? He added later, I'm not here for a suicide mission, but I understand that's what can happen. Prescient. Stimson from Oldham and Minnis from Wiltshire are believed to be the first British nationals fighting for Russian President Vladimir Putin since he ordered the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February. The denazification of Ukraine, please. Stimson was previously jailed in the UK in 2015 for joining pro-Russian separatists in the east of Ukraine. Okay. So he's got previous. Good. Minnis announced the death of Townsend using the Yorkshireman's call sign of Badger in a social media post. Okay. The FCDO also said it advised against all travel to Russia, and our ability to provide consular support in these circumstances is severely limited, to put it mildly. If its foreign travel advice for Ukraine warns travelling to Ukraine to fight or to assist others engaged in the war amounts to offences under UK legislation. Well, even if you go to fight for Ukraine. Surely not if you go to fight for Ukraine. You could be prosecuted on your return to the UK. A number of British nationals have been killed during the war. However, they have been fighting for Ukraine following Russia's attack on the country since 2022. Okay. Townsend is thought to be the second man from Yorkshire to die during the war. The 18-year-old James Wilton from Huddersfield, West Yorkshire, killed in 2024 after he volunteered to fight for Ukraine. Okay. Scottish man. Feared for Ukraine. Britain jailed for Ukraine terror offence. Oh, that's that guy again. Okay. Fucking minge. Ah, well. One less wanker in the world. Badges, 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 badges. Drone bomb, drone bomb. Leaving Huddersfield is the main aim. He does look a bit Russian, doesn't he? Yeah, he does a bit. When is Haz going? I don't know. Wasn't he in like a Russian tank at one point? I'm not sure if that counts as illegal, but maybe it should. Anyway, before we get on to our main proceeding this evening, I just wanted to bring you this. Okay, so this is, I mean, boilerplate, shoe on head, slap.
Personally, until there's a Democratic Party that isn't prisoner to identity politics or isn't completely cucked by race grievance, I'm not a Democrat.
Right, okay. Okay. So, you know, race grievance, even though literally the Republicans' only thing is white race grievance, but whatever, right, that's just typical, like, boilerplate right-wing shit. You never guess who thinks that was good. Oh no. Anna Kasparian retweeted it with the word based. Every day we drift further and further from the light of Jesus. The Mexican guy. Yeah, the bonus hole keeps bonus holing, it would appear. Anyway, sort of on a similar note, and it's similar in the sense that I remember from about a year ago, the prediction that this particular channel, the Tabernacle, who I happen to quite like, We've had very brief interactions, and they've always been positive. But regardless, like a person of some controversy, making a video saying that he thought that Novara Media was going to go down the Young Turks line. He said that they might become the new Young Turks, which I thought was harsh. And then obviously we've had, again, I did broach it yesterday when I had No Justice MTG on, right? And we talked about it briefly. And I wasn't expecting it to be too, like, scathing or anything like that, but I wanted to let her have her say. I felt like it would be remiss of me as a person who is engaged in these circles and talks about these sorts of things to not have to have someone who's literally a host on that show and had been hosting more that week because other people had taken a step back because of this whole chicanery. It would be remiss of me not to ask her about that. Well, I had to do it. And she gave a perfectly reasonable answer. Whatever. She's comfortable working there. That's her thing. This has nothing. Like I do not speak on her behalf. None of the things I'm about to say in this will be anything other than a reflection of my views and all the rest of it. But I did have to ask her about it, you know. Anyway, and the Tabernacle has put this video together called "The Downfall of Novara Media," which is of course related to the recent Jason Arday stuff, which regular viewers will know we've talked about a little bit. Yeah, it's been. I think it's an interesting and pressing political matter. Not because the story itself, I think, will last that long. Like, no one's going to go to jail for anything. It isn't like an ongoing story in that respect. It's sort of done. But because of the implications it has for the kind of society that Britain has become. And just to lay my cards on the table, as I have previously, I believe the people who engaged in the pylon of Jason Arday, and I don't think necessarily this applies to the people of Novara Media, but the people who really enjoyed this shit, the people in like the Spectator, the Daily Telegraph, these kinds of people, they murdered this man. This was a public lynching. They butchered this human being, a very talented and worthwhile human being. The more you look into his life, the more you realise actually we've lost something perfectly worthwhile, rather than the caricature of him in the right-wing media, where they're still calling him like a liar and a grifter and blah blah blah. It's ridiculous. Can we watch the Stephen Methvin apologies again, please? Why would you want to do that particularly? Like, I think, I mean, I don't know, because I haven't watched this, but I would imagine at least part of that gets shown in this video, because it is, hang on, can you see the time thing? There you go. It's an hour long, chat. It's an hour long, and I imagine it gets mentioned. I am wrong. Okay, well, either way, we're not watching it again. Right, so Novara Media, I think, in order to try and sort of do this Trojan horse style, putting things like conceding certain things to the right in order to try and get right-wing people to listen to more progressive arguments and stuff, played into some of the nonsense regarding Jason Arday. And many of their hosts and people connected to the organisation have since either apologised or, in one very notable case, remained entirely silent on the matter as far as I'm aware. Yeah. Let's see what Tabernacle has to say. We will try and get through all of this video, but if you keep interrupting me whilst I'm interrupting me, we'll never get through it, chat, so shut up.
So as we covered on this channel this week, the establishment press essentially hounded Dr. Jason Arday to his death over allegations of plagiarism that weren't actually substantiated properly. I made a whole video on that on Monday, and when the establishment press are clearly racially motivated in trying to destroy a man's life, you'd think that...
So this is the Naren Bastani tweet. He says, Watch the presentation by Jason Ardea at UCL, that's University College London. He says nothing for over 40 minutes. It's genuinely impressive to talk for so long and say nothing. This isn't someone who was over-promoted. Sorry, this isn't someone who was over-promoted. You can still be smart and have that happen. This is a con man. And the really awful thing of all of this is, it took this man's death for anyone to even realise how disgusting this kind of shit is. Or at least for the people who did it to think that it was awful and do something about it. It's worrying. Because had he not done so, this would have just been a story that we'd already have forgotten, I imagine. Yeah. Yeah, Nathan Kofnes is a racist piece of shit who's just been suspended by Ghent University in Belgium. Not for the first time, an organisation who, for some reason, employed him have backed away from the racist. Who said that? Who said what? That he's a conman. This is a direct tweet from Aaron Bastano. If that's what you're referring to, the thing I read out is literally the thing on the screen. I don't know if you're a person just listening to this or something, but or mainly listening, but that's, yeah. Aaron said that. It's pretty gross. Pretty gross.
Alleged communists who run YouTube channels that are very popular on the left, they would take a stance against this. But what happens with Novara Media is some of its key figures joined in on the dog pile. Some of its key figures said that Jason Ardea got his position at Cambridge because he was a black man, and also, when asked to apologise, decided it was worth their time to actually start fighting with myself over what they actually did before giving a apology. Now, this apology by Aaron...
Oh, show us the fighting. Look, I want to talk about the serious politics as well, but show us the fucking... Show us the slop. Show us the beef here. Who said what to who? I want drama as well, okay?
Bastani at Novara Media has gone down pretty well.
Also, Brentford. We're going to fuck you up tomorrow in the League Cup. Just saying, bitch.
But I'm going to actually respond to it and show you he's not actually sorry, because what he does in his apology is try and make himself look as good as possible in the situation by omitting loads of the stuff he said and loads of the jokes he was making at Arda's expense and the stuff he was contributing to the dog pile to make it look like the only problem with what he did was he should have realised that this dog pile was bad. Not that what he actually said was out of line or bad, it's that he should have maybe not said it because of the context of the dog pile. But I want to get into a...
Well, I mean, the dog pile was bad, but like, it's understandable that you would try and defend yourself, I think, and what you said. And like, it's okay to have a bad instinct about a thing, but then decide not to speak. So actually, I mean, that would have been preferable, if that makes sense. I don't think that's the salient criticism of Aaron at this particular time, but we'll wait and see how the video goes. We've got a long way to go. Yeah, Michael hasn't said shit about it because he's a prick. Yeah. Hey, hello there, Lord Free2. 71 months you've been with me. As if I've wasted that much of both my time and your time. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to waste your time. Here you go. What's the here I go? Oh, okay. I was only sort of joking, but we'll have a look. So, let's have a look. So, Cavanackle says the Jason Ardea story is just an academic that was cleared of plagiarism, a disgruntled race realist who used to work at the same university, then accuses him of plagiarism based on exaggerated quote-unquote evidence. Cambridge folds under pressure, mainstream media starts a character assassination. Evidence for plagiarism was never really elaborated on or interrogated. Jason Ardea is now dead as a result. It's really a unique, horrible combination of the classist and racist British press, social media dogpiles over perceived immorality, in this case alleged plagiarism and lying, and journalists across the spectrum unwilling to go against the narrative started by a racist, motivated by racism to take down someone he felt didn't deserve his position. Aaron Bastani, Navarra and people at The Guardian meant to be left-wing, blah blah blah, and this was responded to at that point by Aaron Bastani, who says, Arde, brackets, or someone representing him. Oh, hang on, centre that. Yeah, remind me later. Don't interrupt me while I'm streaming to tell me, see, Windows security, blah blah blah. Fuck off. Right. Arde, brackets, or someone representing him, had the police called on a Times higher education journalist for asking questions last year, brackets, the same journalist who received legal threats. And it was The Guardian who broke the story about claims regarding a pig's head being sent to him, which the police said there had no evidence for. There's no need to obscure the facts and distort reality, because the fact that the story had far more coverage than otherwise might be expected, both things can be true. So is he suggesting that it wasn't about racism then, or what? I never asserted plagiarism. You called him a con man. Hang on a minute. Whoa, 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 whoa. I didn't see this. I never asserted plagiarism. I think from the word con man, I mean, that's arguably worse because it's more broad. Plagiarism is, I suppose, a specific instance of connery. No, not Sean Connery, that's a different thing. Anyway, I have never asserted plagiarism because, having briefly looked over his PhD, it could be referencing issues, though I don't know. The only things I've mentioned... And by the way, he's saying all this shit after Arday's been dead. Like, you can't just fucking leave it now. The only thing I've mentioned were biographical details, brackets, which I've not said any... where I've not said anything untrue. As well as sharing a lecture. You can think Arde was mistreated by the media in Cambridge without completely obscuring very serious things, like having the police investigate a Times higher education supplement journalist. Maybe you can't do that anymore, who knows. Many people are seemingly fine with having the police investigate journalists for 4 months for asking questions. We say for asking questions. What does that mean? There's asking questions and then there's like harassment or whatever. Like, I don't know the specifics of the story. But either way, like, anyway. Or seeming to fabricate claims regarding the most horrendous intimidation possible, as long as it's your side. That's seemingly the world now. Cavanacle claps back with, Aaron, a man killed himself because of a media mob, and all you did during it was punch down. Join in and try to think of funny tweets. Maybe have a day off. You could have tried to combat the original hit beast by Nathan Coppness, but didn't. Yeah, that's fair. Oh, DJ Mule. Your facade of leftism is dead, and you're shitting it, and you should be. Rosa looks... What? What the fuck is that? Why are you funding this reactionary bastard? What's Rosa Luxemburg stiff long? What? What is that? Democratic socialism and education. It's some sort of thing. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Yeah. Maybe it's time for some self-reflection, Aaron. It was a blood sport and racism played a huge role. 3 of the most important articles over the last several weeks were written by black journalists. All 3 were excellent journalism and nobody has rebutted anything they said. Wow, okay. Have you considered just stopping talking about this subject? Exactly, there's no need. Look, the guy's dead. Let it fucking go. That's embarrassing. Honestly. Bastani showed himself up there. Possible anti-Semitism. What do you mean anti-Semitism? From who? Did I see was there an anti-Semitism there? you'll rue the day you crossed me. What? What happened here? What have I missed? What is it, Clem H. Fandango? In his first video, the Tabernacle decided to compare Jason Arday's treatment to James Somerton's treatment. Okay, I mean, that's... I mean, I don't know what comparison he drew there, but... They were both, I mean, instances of plagiarism that led to public, like, hounding of a person. So I guess there is a comparison to draw, but I don't know how sensible it is more broadly. Thank you, Mr. Peter Wood. Mr. Peter Wood. For 22 months. Cav's next video on Navarra in general is good as well. What do you mean next video? The comment about funding, was that anti-Semitism? I don't know. What? I missed that if there was. Sorry. What do you mean his next video? This is his most recent video. There is no next video. Anyway, James was continually passing on other. Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting like if you do a 1-by-1 comparison. That they're like the same thing, but there are components of both stories that would make an analogy or a comparison between them as a way of pointing out differences. Fine, but I haven't seen that other video, so I don't know what he said about it. Like, if you're saying they're the same situation, then you're wrong. But you know, Times Higher. Hang on. Ah, yes. Times Higher Education, the paper that failed to point out at any point that foreign students aren't eligible for student loans, while covering Reform's policy on stopping foreign student loans. That's true, yeah. Reform's new policy is that foreign students won't be allowed to get loans for British universities, which they already aren't. Not only do you have to pay through the nose as a foreign student to get into a British university, you have to self-fund entirely. So basically you have to be rich as fuck. In this video, Cav says he wants the UK to be a one-party state. Okay. How does he get onto that topic from anything? I don't know. Anyway, let's have a look.
Wider question is, I see so many people on the left and they just absolutely hate Navarra media, which I think is interesting because I didn't always feel this. And if you see on some of their recent videos where they're talking about things like wokeness, for example, loads.
Well, what I will say is I don't hate Navarra media by any means, but what I will say is I think they've reached a turning point where they can go down which way, Western man. There are two basic paths that I think they can take now. They can use this as a genuine learning experience and decide that they've gone too far down the path of pretending to be a bit right-wing in order to get the confidence of the right to use as a sort of Trojan horse for leftism. Like for instance, right? Some of their people will go on GB News, right? Which I've got no problem with. I've said to Curtis before, if he wants to throw any of their invitations my way, I'm more than happy to. Because I think going into right-wing spaces and saying, having a more progressive message in those spaces is a good thing. So I've got no problem with that as a tactic. But what they've done is essentially conceded quite a lot in terms of like wokeness and, Jason Arday and DEI and all this sort of stuff to try and win over the confidence of right-wingers, to try and get them to listen to more progressive messaging. And I think they've gone too far. It becomes almost a Pyrrhic victory at that point. If you concede so much that any gain you get from it is nowhere near like enough to compensate, you're essentially destroyed yourself on the altar of trying to be the Trojan horse. it's sort of pointless. They've gone too far with it. So they can either use this as a learning experience and decide this is the point at which we sort of pull back from that a little bit, or they can go down the TYT route and just turn into like a bastion of TERFs and fucking reactionary shit, if they want to. It essentially, obviously, is up to the main leadership and to a degree the people who work there, right? To decide which path gets taken. But having Ash Sarkar out there doing this weird like anti-woke shit is was an eye-opener for me, because I always thought she was one of the better contributors to that organisation, but that made me rethink her quite significantly. Yeah. No, Comrie, to be fair, I don't think Turn Left are English exceptionalists. Now, to be fair, the people who run Turn Left are from England, and so there's naturally going to be more of a focus on English issues, but I don't think they're remotely English exceptionalists. I think that's very unfair. I don't think they get people just, it gets mentioned as the butt of the joke. I don't think that's true at all. I wouldn't go on there if I felt that were the case. Or I wouldn't go on there as a friendly voice of agreement with them or whatever, you know. What's this anti-woke shit Ash has been doing? Well, it was a while ago, it was about a year ago now. She released her book, which was about how like the wokeness and the left had gone too far or whatever. And it was an interesting idea on the face of it. Although the book itself, I didn't actually get through all of it in the end. I found it fucking tedious. But she was doing all these sort of interviews in the round about how you know the left were going crazy. But she kept bringing up these examples, like the one about Anne Frank having white privilege, which is a thing that one person said ever. Like it's one person ever said it, and she used it in like a million different fucking interviews, as if this was a thing that the left believed, as if this was a thing that the majority of leftists agree with this thing. It's bollocks, absolute nonsense. But there you go.
Of people are really unhappy. There's a video where Ash and Michael Walker, which I'm going to talk about, where they support like social media bans for under 16s, and people are just kind of like, what the fuck? And
yeah, that's weird.
I have a theory about this, and it's basically what you see when any prominent self-described communist wants to join the establishment. They basically stop being a communist. And I've said that recently in regards to Hassan as well. Like, he has been compromising heavily on what he said have been previous red lines, you know, saying like...
Look, come on, he literally did 9/11. What more do you want? He brought America down from the inside, and you're still complaining. Jesus! He literally helped get the head of Al-Qaeda to become the mayor of New York City, and the left are still whinging. Take yes for an answer. Jeez.
Zionism, anyone who's a Zionist should be treated like a neo-Nazi, but then he's saying he likes someone like Brad Lander, who not only self-describes as a Zionist, but actually has invested New York pensioners' money in Ilbert Systems and proudly...
Oh, by the way, did you see Lady Gaga? Her company apparently is being funded by like Israeli money. Apparently. So now we have to boycott Lady Gaga, which, to be fair, I have been very successfully for the entirety of her existence, but more broadly I think we ought to, because that's garbage, much like her music. Kev is doing a bit for those confused. Am I doing a bit, or do I literally believe that Hassan Piker did all of 9/11 single-handedly? Come on now, come on. 255 with a question, which is probably going to be mental. You don't think Anne Frank's story getting more focused than other genocide victims has something to do with white privilege? I think it has something to do with European privilege, by and large, yes. I've said this before, but like, Germany quite rightly gets a bad rap for the Holocaust, whereas a similar number of people were killed in the Congo by the Belgian government. We never talk about that. A similar number of people were willfully starved to death by Britain in one of the many famines we caused in India. Or indeed, was it 1.5 million that starved to death in Ireland because of British policy? These things don't get mentioned because they're not like convenient or sexy, or not sexy is the wrong word, but like they're not the right faces to be, you know, the head of this thing. So I think there's an element of that, but I don't know that you can't say that an individual within the Holocaust had white privilege, because that's ridiculous, because they got fucking murdered. Like, if you're going to say that Anne Frank had white privilege, what you are suggesting is that white privilege is sort of meaningless, or at least worthless. Because if you can have white privilege and still get fucking genocided, then it's clearly not very effective. European Jews are white passing today, that is certainly the case, but they weren't thought of as white people for the vast majority of history. They were definitely seen as other, as can be seen by, you know, the Holocaust. Are we doing a 24-hour stream? Very possibly. Because we've been going, how long now? Nearly an hour, and we've gotten through 2.5 minutes. We really are. I'm going to have to go 1.25, aren't I? He speaks quite slowly anyway, so I think we can bump it up a little bit.
He says that. So it's pretty clear, however radical Hassan thinks he is in his own head, he's clearly compromising on any sort of radical politics. And the logic behind this is something I understand. They basically see themselves, whether it's Ash Sarkar, whether it's Aaron Bastani, whether it is Hassan, they see themselves as a Trojan horse, and they go into the establishment places and pretend they're not as radical as they are. They moderate their language, and then what happens is once...
Don't fucking weird chat me in chat. I know I'm the problem, the playback speed isn't. I'm just... You fucking little... Oh. Death to America!
In the door, they'll get all these revolutionaries in with them. But that doesn't happen. And you're seeing that with Navarro Media even more, in that by cozying up to the establishment, these people are pretty much indistinguishable from the establishment. While listening to Navarro Media videos from Ash, Michael, and Aaron for this video, they make Zach Polanski look radical. They have self-censored and moderated their language so much. It feels like there's an element of grift to this, but it feels like if they did...
Why is Zach Polanski picking up fucking shade? What's going on there?
Have a strategy to try and take on the establishment by going on GB News or the BBC, it seems to have a knock-on effect where they've lost any radical edge to them. And again, two people in the three leading hosts call themselves communist. I don't feel like I'm listening to communists when I listen to these people speak. And it is also part of the brain poisoning of electoralism that I feel like the American left suffer from as well. There is no long-term thinking, and they base their support for positions based on polling. And I said this in an old video about Navarro Media. I'm like, why do they base everything they say on whether it polls well and stuff? Like, who gives a fuck? If you're a communist, your whole political ideology in the West is hated. Who cares about polling? I feel like it's our job as communists. We educate people, we sow the seeds, because we're not going to be here for the revolution. I think that's what people need to come to terms with as well. In the British and American context, you are not going to see the revolution. It's going to happen maybe in the next generation, or the generation...
Okay, true. But again, there's an understanding within the communist milieu that you need to meet the working class where they're at. You can't just stay aloof from it and be like, well, we believe these things, and we can't moderate the way in which we say anything, or quote-unquote hide our power levels or anything like that. We have to be absolutely 100% honest all the time about everything. No, propaganda is a thing. But communists have understood, socialists, whatever, leftists have always understood and believed this to be true. Like, you can't be pulling this fucking... unless you just plainly state everything. Like, well, people don't believe that now. So making the argument for it now is possibly naive in some circumstances. Let's put it that way. Like, you need to... For me, you need to do the next most plausible thing. I think so. I think you have to do that. I don't think just plainly stating absolutely everything you believe is a winning strategy. Ultimately, you just ostracize yourself from the vast majority of people at that point, which is part of the reason that communists don't get anywhere. Because they don't fucking... Well, let's say get anywhere in, let's say, in the West. Because you're essentially talking to a brainwashed group of people as if they're not brainwashed. You're talking to them about things that a person who had class consciousness would understand when they don't have class consciousness. He thinks electing SOCDEMs is pointless. Well, he's wrong then, clearly. It does improve the lives of working class people. That's just fucking true. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Like, I'm not, again, the difference between, and this is where leftists fall down, the difference between electoralism and involving yourself in elections is an important distinction. Just saying, oh, that's electoralism. No, I'm not suggesting that you can achieve everything you want to achieve through elections. I don't think you can. I think a system that is specifically set up to stop socialism cannot be used to create socialism. That's one. But to say it's pointless to elect better people into office with better, and not just better people in some sort of idealist, like, purity sense, but people who have better policies, who are more pro-working class. The idea that electing those people over Nigel Farage is pointless is a fucking stupid notion, of course. You're listening to Lady Gaga and I'm loving it. Okay, well, she's a fucking Israeli stooge, mate. What do you want? Fucking medal. Is Tabernacle a trot? I have no idea what Tabernacle describes themselves as. I think he's okay. I just think he's slightly misguided in this one area. But, you know.
Following. So what are you going to spend your time doing? Are you going to spend your time self-censoring, moderating your positions, and essentially sounding like a liberal in the hopes that maybe you can get some sort of SOCDEM in the leadership of the government for 4 to 8 years or 5 to 10 years, only for them to be replaced by a Conservative later on? Or should you be taking your platform as a public figure and someone who people look to for politics to really challenge?
Well, I mean, the Overton window is an interesting framework to understand things, but I think it's sort of inexact. The idea that there are hard defined lines and what is or isn't acceptable isn't really how it works. But if we say that there's a kind of gradient towards the edge of the window, what we need to do is extend that gradient further left and contract it from the right, if you can. And indeed blur the lines even further on the left, I suppose, to the point where more radical ideas become more acceptable, and that people get to hear those radical ideas in a proper way, rather than if you just come out and say the radical idea now, what you'll have is the media tear you to pieces. Like, he had a kind of jibe at Zach Polanski earlier, right? But if Zach Polanski came out and said everything that Zach Polanski truly believes about everything, he'd get, like, absolutely savaged. Not even in the kind of shitty way that he is now, but he'd get, like, driven out of public life. Ratchet affect things back leftwards. Yeah, exactly. The right wing did it for themselves. Why can't we do it in reverse? Yeah, absolutely.
Things in society and push things that are morally right but maybe unpopular to help change that conversation and help normalize those ideas, so in the future, if this revolution comes, and climate apocalypse in my mind means it certainly will come at some point, you want the people to be ready by accepting these ideas. Going on panel shows like GB News and basically just moderating your position and agreeing with everything they say, or basically shitting on, like, wokeness in an attempt to sell your book, like Ash has seemingly done doing the media rounds for her book about this stuff, then I think that has all seeped in to Novara Media's coverage, where they, without knowing it, have essentially become the establishment. So it should be no surprise in the context of a group of people or three main hosts who constantly bang on about wokeness being bad and who constantly run in establishment circles, probably go out to drinks with these journalists that they don't politically agree with, then that is firmly seeped into Novara's whole outlook on the world, where what they actually seem to want is sensible reform of the British system. When we live in one of the most rotten, oldest political systems in the world, we have been ruled over the same class of people in the UK for 1,000 years. There is no country in more need of a revolution than the UK, in my opinion, because we just...
Jesus Christ. Okay, like, don't get me wrong, we are in need of a revolution. And we may indeed be the country that most needs a revolution. But we're the country that's arguably furthest away from getting a, well, let's say from getting a left-wing revolution. We may be getting a revolution sometime soon. It will not be a fucking progressive one, will it? It will not be a left-leaning one. The only people who are rioting in the streets, the only people who are occupying public spaces in a way that would be revolutionary potential are fascists. The only people who have enough arms at their disposal and the kind of infrastructural power necessary to undergo a staged coup d'etat are right-wing cunts in the police and the army. So when you say we need a revolution, that's true. But the idea that we're anywhere close to having the kind of left-wing groundswell of working class support to be able to pull that off is fucking ludicrous. You have to try and make people... You have to try and breed within people an understanding of working class solidarity, which absolutely does not exist right now. Kev's telling leftists to join the plot. I'm absolutely not doing that. What I'm suggesting is that we need to build, ironically, power structures of our own, which would be able to challenge, in such a revolutionary period, any counter-revolution. Let's just leave it vague like that, shall we?
Have this behemoth of a structure that has not changed in centuries, that needs to be completely dismantled and replaced by, in my opinion, as someone who is a communist, a one-party English state. And I have never really ever heard that expressed on like Novara Media.
You want a one-party state, so you don't actually want democracy then? Cool. So that is kind of tanky shit, actually. Yeah, that's gross. Yeah, that's gross.
Which is supposed to be an outlet run by actual communists. Now, before I get into the rest of the video, I will say Novara Media is a big organisation, and I'll make this point before I talk about everything. Novara Media has many people who work for them, and one of the things I've praised them for is they do all have equal pay. I don't know if it's still a thing, but when I made a video 2 years ago, I went through it, and I showed you on their website where they describe it, so they all get paid the same, which is nice, and that might give you the view that it's some sort of democracy, workplace democracy, worker cut, but you know it pretty firmly isn't one. And I said in my video, when you have your faces of the channel, Ash, Aaron, and Michael, going rightwards, they bring the whole channel with them, because I'm sure there are lots of people there who didn't like the coverage of Jason Arde, who doesn't like what Aaron Bastani constantly says, but this is also one of the biggest left-wing media organisations, independent, in the UK, right? So in the same way that like cozying up to Hassan is good for you if you want to be a streamer or a YouTuber, and criticising him is bad for you in terms of getting in the door of making a leftist career out of this stuff, I think Novara is the exact same, where if you actually want a job in an organisation where you can relatively speak your mind on leftist issues, you're not going to want to piss them off. So that also suppresses criticism internally. And even like Ash was saying on Twitter, I don't comment on what my colleagues say, but you feel like there should be kind of a bar of maybe sometimes you should, because you're the joint face of this organisation and your colleague is saying all this shit and then puts out a bad apology, and then I guess you think everyone should move on. But like I said, they get paid the same, but there isn't an equal say. So if you have a problem with what Ash, Michael and Aaron are saying, what can you do?
Finding clutter everywhere you look?
No, I'm not actually. Thank you.
Crime podcast. I'm Livy Haydock. Join me as we uncover the truth behind Britain's gang bosses and
Yeah.
You can quit. That's pretty much it. You can't do anything about it because there isn't any sort of democracy in that workplace beyond the equal pay. So you're just going to have to rely on people having those conversations behind the scenes. And I remember when Michael Walker was saying transphobic...
So, hang on. There isn't any democracy... Okay. Just to give you a brief recap. He thinks there should be more democracy in Novara media, but only one political party in... Well, he said England, but I presume... Well, either he means Britain, or he's already, like, conceded that Wales and Scotland are going to go their own way. So England's just going to be its own, like, separate thing. You was about to hit skip, but you to it, bitch. Yeah. So he wants a one-party state, but a several-party Navarro media. Okay. Democracy's fun, isn't it? Yeah. It's Marxist capitalism, true.
stuff. John Duncan, who's another leftist YouTuber, he obviously criticised Aaron, who basically said that John...
What's this? Michael disagrees with police abolition. Yes, that's allowed. You attacked me but haven't backed it up here, so presumably that was a rhetorical flourish. But like I said, crack on. John says, damn, there seems to be a sort of convenient omission from this reply. Can anyone spot what it is? Well, it's from 2024, so I have no idea what they're even talking about then. Okay.
Being anti-police, but wanting Aaron to have a word with Michael about his transphobic coverage and stuff, was him actually being...
Major talking head in your company is spreading right-wing transphobic talking point. Oh, so okay. So he's not mentioning the transphobia. Right, okay.
pro-police. So these are people who do not take criticism well externally. I highly doubt people in the organisation feel...
Well, clearly, yeah, Aaron Bastani reacts badly to criticism publicly, yeah. That is true.
Challenging the people who run this organisation and are the face of it. And I also say there are people in Novara who I like. Helena, who works at Novara, I followed long before she worked there and stuff, and I've always liked her streams and coverage of British politics, and I'm not going to speak for her, I haven't spoken...
Who's this? Who is this person? No Justice. Never heard of him. Who's that? I mean, I can't tell you to go and subscribe to them or not subscribe to them. That's up to you. But if you wanted to go and subscribe to them, you could do that. That is a thing you could do. But I don't know anything about them, so, you know. Helen Badger Bobs. True! Transphobic talking points like what? Oh, well, Michael, he had an infamous tweet, if someone can find it, if someone wants to dig it up, where he started talking about TRAs, and I think, did he also say gender ideology or something at one point? Like, he was doing some, like, bonus hole Anna Kasparian type shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was doing that sort of, you know, birthing people, shit. She's an upper-class avian. True.
Spoke to her about any of this stuff, so don't take me name-dropping her as me saying she doesn't agree or does agree with what Aaron said, but it's just...
Nah, name-drop away, I do all the time, mate. She's my famous friend.
It's like, I know...
Literally, best friends. Best friends. BFFs. With several Green Party leaders. Caroline Lucas, check. Zach Polanski, check.
I like her politics and I like what she says, and even though she is a prominent host now, she isn't the face of Novara media, and when they advertise stuff, it's always Michael, Ash and Aaron, either advertising their anti-communist football shirts or advertising, like, trying to scale up
their anti-communist football shirts. What?
Even though she is a prominent host now, she isn't the face of Novara media, and when they advertise stuff, it's always Michael, Ash and Aaron, either advertising their anti-communist football shirts.
Anti-communist football shirts? What does that mean? Am I missing something about the anti-communist? I think they are pro-Palestine. Yeah, that they're. Is being pro-Palestinian anti-communist? I assume he meant anti-capitalist. Yeah, okay, but yeah, maybe he misspoke. Maybe he meant anti-capitalist. Yeah. Okay, I don't know.
Or advertising, like, trying to scale up Navarro's operation. So even if there is, like, 30 people working there and only 3 of them act like this, because these 3 have a disproportionate influence on the brand and have a disproportionate say on the brand, it's always going to taint the whole coverage. And that's what I feel like when I watch this stuff sometimes. So let's start with the Jason Arde stuff. And I criticised Navarro in my previous video, but while I was...
Maybe because people have to buy them. Yeah. That would be funny if he was doing the Boers comic. Oh, you claim to be communist and yet you charge people money to buy your merchandise. I am very smart. No, I'm going to be generous and say that I think he just misspoke. I think he meant anti-capitalist. Yeah, okay. And he is literally wearing a football shirt, yeah, of a capitalist organisation. Checkmate, leftoids.
In that video, Aaron Bastani actually quote tweeted me to defend himself from me criticising their coverage of it. And basically, if you missed what their coverage was, the main show wasn't joining in the dogpile in the same way, but it was also discrediting Jason Arde. Michael Walker actually said that it appeared what had happened here is some sort of DEI gone mad, that Jason Arde was over-promoted because of his identity.
I know you were saying you were listening.
With 20 hotel brands at IHG Hotel.
Oh, you claim to be a communist and yet there are lots of mid-roll adverts. Capitalist whore.
With this guy earlier. I was watching a lecture with this guy earlier. If he was ever considered the best in the world in this discipline, the discipline has a problem.
Yeah.
Because I watched, half of a 40-minute lecture and it was just word salad and nothing was said. It felt like I was in a kind of HR talk where someone was just phoning it in.
Yeah, sort of buzzwordy almost.
Buzzwordy. But is because their critique was always that the attempt to diversify elite institutions is going to lead to unqualified people hired because of their identity. And in this situation, it does seem like an unqualified person was hired because of his identity. So I suppose...
And they spoke about, obviously, the disproportionate coverage because this was a black man, but there was no thought in the coverage that maybe they should go to the original article written by the racist eugenicist and examine what it actually said. Because
Do I have to go to the ad block discussion every single time? I have ad block. When I am not streaming, it's fine. When I stream with ad block, YouTube throttle the bandwidth to the point where it becomes absolutely unwatchable. It just buffers all the fucking time. So I have to turn the ad block off. Twitter win. Twitter and the fucking capitalists win, unfortunately. Now I could get premium. And people have paid me specific amounts of money to get premium. And I keep meaning to, and then I never do. Because it's much like... I think I've got this experience before, right? I've told you about my frustrations trying to buy a pillow. Right? For ages, my pillows on my bed were fucking shit. They were battered up to fuck, fall into pieces. It was just some loose cotton inside of a thing, basically. It was fucking awful. But the only time I ever remembered, oh, I need to buy a pillow, was just before I was going to bed, or just before I was about to fall asleep, as my head was on the pillow. Now, I could have gone onto Amazon, I suppose, but this was before I even started doing shopping online, really. This is like 10 years ago or something. And so I didn't really. And then the only reason I remember to get premium is when we're doing this, and I always forget by the time I finish stream. We need a poll. If you know a Polish lad who can fix it, yeah, absolutely.
I went to the article, and other people went to the article, and they realised that the allegations of plagiarism in the PhD thesis specifically were pretty much all around the citations and also his literature review. And I've written a literature review for my master's thesis, and one thing I didn't expand upon as much, when you're writing literature reviews, you're writing about the arguments of people. And there's only so many ways you can actually restructure an argument or a thesis of someone who's written other work. And it appears, if there is any plagiarism, what Jason Arde did was too close, basically, to an actual quote without quoting. But if you get into the bulk of his actual research in his PhD thesis, like a master's thesis.
Hang on, you want me to do it right this very second? Oh, for God's sake. Okay. How do I do that exactly? I'm doing... Well, firstly, I'm doing it on the other fucking screen. You're not seeing my fucking bank details. You little fucking thieves. I know you people. Google account, maybe? Go into that. Wallet and subscriptions, maybe? Nope, none of that's right. Okay. You? No. No, I don't wish to switch account. I want to get premium. How do I do this? Home shorts. Try premium for $0. That sounds good to me. All YouTube, no interruptions. Plans starting from $7.99 per month. Okay, let's try that. Premium is 1 month trial and then 13. Hang on a minute. Right, so we've got options, chat. Do we go with the £13 a month, which is all advert-free YouTube, all advert-free YouTube music, background play and downloads, or save 38% with £8 for most videos are ad-free, background play most videos, download most music, but you don't get ad-free YouTube music, which I don't use the music online anyway, so... Like, what do I do? Do the full one. I don't know what most means. I'm going to celebrate this shit like it's the winner in the 90th minute. Okay, we'll do that then. Right. Yeah, buy that. Let's go. Is it going to do it? There's a circle going round and round. Verify that it's you. When you continue, a new window will open. Oh, there we go. It did. My card couldn't be verified. How the fuck are you paying me then? What? What is it doing? Okay, continue. Your transaction was declined because your card couldn't be verified. The fuck does that? You're not charging me anything. It's today. It says £0 and 0 pence. What? It requires a separate payment method. Thank you, Anti Vegan Boy, with a trophy cake for 1,000 joules. I don't know. Hang on, back. Right, let's try again. 1 month trial. Unfortunately, I'm not a student anymore and haven't been for many years. Right, let's try again, shall we? If not, child, then I don't know what to do, because that's the card I use. That's my fucking card. So I don't know what else to. Okay, it doesn't want to take my fucking money. Chat, what do you want me to do, man? I've tried. I've tried, chat, and it just won't do it. YouTube gave me 1,000 free points, but they only seem to be an option to one stream I watch. I don't know. Anyway, look, we're just going to have to put up with it. I've tried, okay? I've been defeated by YouTube.
didn't plagiarize it. And even the plagiarism software, which thankfully people in the comments who work in academia were saying it's flawed anyway, and I know you can reach up to like 20-30% and not have your work pulled for plagiarism. But they're saying this PhD thesis doesn't meet the criteria for a plagiarized work under that flawed system, right? So if Novara, and Aaron Bastani has done, I think, a PhD as well. So if Novara decided to do some investigative journalism instead of...
Don't be sorry, it's fine. It was a nice distraction.
Making videos about why vape shops are bad and shit like that, maybe they could have actually defended Jason Arde, who I'm sure was either aware of them or even a viewer of Novara, but they decided to basically focus on one part of it and give credit to the witch hunt itself, while Aaron Bastani was cracking jokes on Twitter at Jason Arde's expense and actually talking about how much of an idiot he was. So I tweeted this, and again, this I didn't include my first video, and he must have been name searching himself because I don't know why this would have popped up unless someone he followed retweeted it, and he only has 39 retweets. So journalists across the spectrum are willing to go against a narrative started by a racist, motivated by racism, to take down someone he felt he didn't deserve his position. Aaron Bastani, Novara, and the people at The Guardian, they're meant to be left-wing journalists, but they didn't feel it was their responsibility to interrogate the evidence or question its credibility, but instead to jump in on a dog pile. So Aaron quote tweets me saying, Arde had the police called on a Times higher education journalist for asking the questions, and it was The Guardian who broke the story about claims regarding a pig's head being sent to him, which the police said they had no evidence for. There's no need to obscure the facts and distort reality because of the fact that the story had far more coverage than might otherwise be expected. Both things can be true. I never asserted plagiarism because having briefly looked over his PhD...
Okay, so I already read through all of this. I didn't know he was going to fucking bring it up.
It could just be the referencing issues. The only things I mentioned were biographical details as well as sharing a lecture. You can think Arde was mistreated by the media and Cambridge without completely obscuring very serious things like having the police investigate a Times higher education supplemental journalist. Maybe you can't do that anymore, who knows? Many people...
True, he may name search himself, but at least he's not stupid enough to type that into the fucking tweet bar and then tweet it like Ed Balls did, the daft cunt.
What seemingly fine with...
Sorry. Mrs. Foreign Secretary. Mrs. Foreign Secretary. You get the idea.
When the police investigate journalists for 4 months for asking questions or seeming to fabricate claims regarding the most horrendous intimidation possible, as long as it's their side, that's seemingly the world now. So this is the exact same argument all the establishment press were putting out of why they should have just kept harassing this guy. He's saying the only thing I mentioned was the lecture I shared. It's not what he did. And he said that in the apology, and I pointed this out to him and responded to him. I said, Aaron, a man killed himself because of a media mob, and all you did during it was punch down, join in, and try to think of...
Don't pity clap me, you bastards. I will fucking find you, okay? I will find you, and you will feel my pugilistic rage.
Funny tweets. Maybe have a day off. You could have tried to combat the original hit piece, but didn't. And here's him saying, Netflix buying the rights to make a 5-part dramatization of the Arde story. Watch this presentation by Arde, and he says nothing for 40 minutes. It's genuinely impressive to talk so long and say nothing. This isn't someone who's over-promoted and smart. That can happen. This is a con man. We're in Frank Abagnale territory. Catch me if you can. To be honest, Arde Saga would make a better movie.
Jesus Christ. I didn't know he'd said any of this fucking shit. Oh my God. Aaron, you absolute fucking fanny. What are you doing? See, all I'd seen was their coverage on their actual channel. I don't fucking... I only really use Twitter to either what do you call it? Tweet out like links to this to like when I'm streaming, which is the same thing you get on the Discord or whatever, or to like contact people that I have, you know, that are umphies on the Twitch machine, on Twitter. So I don't really look at people's fucking tweets anymore. I don't really retweet anything or read anything there because it's just full of like Twitter is basically racists and pedos now. That's it. The Elon Musk demographics. So I don't really follow it a lot. So I didn't know he'd said any of this fucking dumb shit. Basically, he did. Okay, I take it back then. He did engage in the dog pile aggressively then. He didn't need to say any of this shit. It's like catch me if you can. The fuck are you talking about, Aaron? What are you talking about? No, I know the move. Oh, for God's sake! I mean, like it's a ridiculous comparison. It's an absolutely farcical comparison. I knew about this, but didn't need to tell. 255. You don't need to tell me anything. It's fine. You don't need to apologise for that. You don't need to inform me of things. I'm always grateful when you do, but you don't need to. It's not incumbent upon you to have to educate me on what Arabistani's tweeting.
After the final credits, you could have scenes like this. And I just saying also he wasn't a plagiarist, and the reason Nathan put all that other shit about Arde was to make people like you discredit him without actually checking what he allegedly plagiarized. You question his academic credentials harshly and write this tweet suggesting Arde got his position for being a black man, where your Geordie, I'm guessing white mate, didn't because he was not black. You and Navarro's whole woke is dead shit also helped create the context of the mob in the first place. So he writes here, rarely mentioned, Jason Arde didn't have GCSEs or A-levels. As I remember it, you couldn't do a Cambridge master's degree without having a first-class degree, but now you can teach there without GCSEs. To say that not making exceptions like that excludes working class people is absurd and insulting. One of my greatest friends is a Geordie, former carpet fitter who later worked in recruitment, but he really fancied studying, so he did a degree as a mature student, got the bug, did a master's at UCL, then a PhD, but he struggled to make progress in academia like most. He's as critical of the institutions as anyone, but people like him are angry about the Arde story too. He's a socialist for what he's worth. And he's basically saying Arde got his job over his white Geordie working class mate because Arde was black. And everything was overlooked because he was black. And I struggle...
Yeah, this is like a right-wing DEI argument, yeah. This is wank.
Insanely struggle to believe that's the truth in any way, just from having gone through university or my master's program, where you just don't even see black professors for the most part. You're more likely to see white American professors in the UK than you are to see a black British professor. So absolutely disgusting. Disgusting he responded to my tweets defending himself in this way and always omitting what he did. You said he got his job basically because he was a black man and he got over promoted. So he said this and then he gives the apology, right? So he was defending himself basically to the last minute, and then maybe because of something internally, even though he says no one pressured him to do it, he comes out with an apology, right? So I'm going to play you some of the apology. I'm going to watch it all right now myself, but I'm not going to play it all for you because it's like 5 minutes. And you can go watch it. It's on.
Oh no, you couldn't find 5 minutes in this hour-long video. No, I'm only playing. I'm only playing.
On the main channel. Loads of people are praising.
That's a whole Sargon in length. Come on now.
They're saying, oh my god, what a thoughtful apology, what a good apology. Now we don't want another witch hunt against Aaron Bastani like Jason Arde. We need to just like chill out and move on, which is all well and good, but if you listen to what I've just read you, then listen to his apology. He doesn't actually mention it. The way he frames it is so insane. He won't be honest about what he did, and he won't really accept what he did was completely wrong. So listen to this.
I want to talk about my own role in the weeks preceding the death of Jason Arde, and to apologise.
Our most human moments should be celebrated with humour.
This is just rubbing it in now, you cunts. Fuck you, YouTube.
Celebrate.
Why did I pause the advert? That was... anyway.
Flight. You'll know when it will take off, where you will sit.
I'm not gonna...
Honestly, those adverts now, it's like a searing iron to my heart.
To speak about whether the journalism covering the story was merited or if there was a public interest in the media following the story. That was covered to some extent on last night's show, and you can find discussions about it elsewhere. There are a few things I want to say, though. First, it's beyond doubt that much of the deluge of coverage aimed at Jason Arde wasn't just racialized, but racist. Like many others, I suspect that if Jason Arde were a white person, he'd still be alive. Of course, Jason Arde was an influential person. He was successful. That shouldn't be evaded, wiped out, ignored. I've seen him referred to as a obscure academic. That's not true. He was a professorial chair at Cambridge, a guest editor on the Today programme. He was a panellist on BBC Question Time. And with influence comes scrutiny.
I fucking got ad block! I've already explained to you bastards. I've got ad block. If I use ad block, YouTube fuck me. Okay? The video will not play if I am streaming and using ad block. I fucking guarantee you. If anyone brings up ad block one more time, I'm going to fucking find you and set fire to your pubes. Alright? That is a joke. I won't actually do that. That would be sexual assault.
That applies to myself as well, by the way. But Arde was also a vulnerable man, firstly because of his neurodivergence, secondly because of his state of mind in those final weeks of his life, a state of mind which was widely relayed to the media. Speaking personally, I lost sight of that second part, the vulnerability. After being told of his state of mind by someone I trust and admire, I said I'd stop talking about the story, which I did. But that doesn't excuse what I'd already done. Again, I won't touch on our reporting here nor seek to defend it, not least because I, personally, was guilty of something much, much worse.
He has a massive forehead. Sorry, it's just very shiny as well.
On the 7th of August on X, I referred to Arde as a con man. Now, I'm not the Times or Telegraph or the Sun newspaper, but I do have 180,000...
No, don't time people out for mentioning ad block. I was only joking. Oh, bless you. Although, to be fair, I have said with my mods, use your banhammer with reckless abandon, so I should expect that, I suppose.
Was an X. That's a decent number. And with that kind of following comes responsibility. Not least because it's plausible Jason Arday himself saw that post. So what was the basis of it? What was the foundation of saying something so decisive and vicious and nasty? It was a lecture he gave at UCL, where I studied, in 2021, posted to YouTube. Now I've watched that lecture back. Imagine if someone watched a video of you or me on a bad day, or just a middling day, frankly. Maybe you were unprepared because of a family emergency, or you were unwell. Maybe you just had bad news, you had too much on your plate. And they proceeded to impugn your character and your credentials on the basis of a single video to almost 200,000 people. If that was me, I'd feel distressed. But if that happened while the media were undertaking an unprecedented excavation of everything I've ever said or done, I'd be despondent. Actually, I'll be honest, I don't know how I'd begin to feel. It's literally...
Okay, but it's not about you, Aaron. Why is your apology about you and not, like, the people you hurt? Yeah. Like, I don't give a fuck how you would feel about any of it. Hey, Mix Vivian Wolf, hello. Everyone go and follow Mix Vivian Wolf immediately. Otherwise, I will douse your pubes that were on fire out. Wait for them to dry and set them on fire again. Okay? I'm not above double cooking pubes.
Unimaginable. Professionally, I erred. But ethically, and that's what I really care about, I really screwed up.
So that apology might be good enough for you or whatever if you're an Avara follower. I find it wildly insincere and also completely mischaracterized.
Vicky, why do you say... Do you have news that they democratically voted? Or is that just an inference you're using? Because I don't think Aaron Bastani is the kind of guy who would give a fuck if his employees wanted him to make the apology. Kev is the Adele of pubes. What? Hello from the pubic side. I don't know many of her songs. Rolling in the Deep. Pavement. Those are the 3 songs I know. How do you add someone on your to your family on Google? I can't even do it myself. I have no idea. The live chat on Navarra that day did not like the apology. Well, not a surprise because it wasn't really an apology, was it? After the Fury. Yeah, no, that's fair, Vicky, yeah. Has Ash done an apology? I haven't seen Ash's apology. Oh, Set Fire to the Rain. Oh, that's another one of her songs, isn't it? Yeah, I preferred Stephen's apology because that did feel like he was coming from a genuine emotional place, you know. Yeah. I still have no idea what these apologies are for. Well, basically they contributed to the hounding of a man to his death. You know, like the thing is, right, I don't think that necessarily Aaron and his people enjoyed what was going on with that. Whereas the people who write for the Spectator or the Telegraph or the Times or whatever would absolutely... They loved that experience. They were so happy to be part of the mob, tearing apart this woke, black, quote-unquote academic. And they were only annoyed about his death because A, it stopped their fun, and B, they were scrambling around to cover their arse to say, well, it wasn't my fault that he died, and all of that shit. Whereas I think Aaron was just sort of media bubble brained or whatever and just went with the thing because he's a London media darling or whatever. Whomever requested a YouTube Premium Kev meme, you're welcome. It's in the meme section of the Discord. Oh, God. You people are incorrigible. You really are. Yeah. This is going to be very offensive to me, isn't it? This is going to be making me look like a fucking idiot. Well, that's not even me. That's Streamy. Why have you done my boy Streamy like this? Hmm? Unbelievable. Michael is Anna Kasparian and Bastani is Chen Kuga. Yeah, that's the dynamic, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why Meghan and Harry are coming back. Like, the British press are worse than when they left. Have you ever done a school check on Navarra's Big Three? It's very interesting and revealing. I haven't, actually. I suppose we can do that. Ash Sarkar. She's a libertarian communist. Blah, 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 blah. Enfield County School. A girls' comprehensive in Enfield. Okay, so that's just a regular school. The Latimer School is a voluntary aided selective coeducational grammar school. I don't even know, what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean a private school? Voluntary aided is state-funded school in England and Wales in which a foundation or trust contributes to building costs and has substantial influence on the running of the school. Right, okay. Okay, it seems a bit posh or whatever, but I don't really know. And then University College London, which is, you know, that's quite a prestigious university, I guess. I don't know, well, not just I guess, it is. Aaron Bastani. Okay, he went to UCL as well. Okay. Early life, Bournemouth. University College London, and then the Royal Holloway, University of London. Okay. I'm not sure what that tells me, but okay. And then Michael Walker. If I could fucking type. Oh, okay. Michael Walker. Politics, diplomat, politician, British journalist. Yeah, that's the one. There you go. London School of Economics. Master of Science degree in political sociology, which is sort of PPE, I guess. What am I supposed to take from them? They all... If they all seem to have gone to like decent universities, but I don't think they're like crazy privileged, right? The school has houses. Well, yeah, the British schools sometimes do. Previously a grammar school. Yeah, I don't really know. Anyway, yeah, I mean, they're not like super working class, but they're not like Eton or something.
In what he did. So he took this lecture and he called him a con man, right? How he describes it is, oh, Jason Arde might have been having a bad day. That's why it was bad. That's why the lecture was bad. The framing of, oh, maybe he had a bad day and I called him a con man. Like, he had a justifiable reaction.
No, I don't think most schools have houses. Mine definitely fucking didn't. I don't think most... some schools do have houses. It's, you know, whatever. We just had, like, forms.
You didn't have a justifiable reaction to the lecture. You just up your own arse and think you're smarter than him. And that also was not the only thing.
Okay, we've got a super chat. Apologies. We will get through some of this today. Okay, voluntary aided schools were how academies started. Initially, businesses had to put up a lot of funding so it wouldn't come from state funding. Oh, okay, so it's just a private workaround thing. And it seemed like a relatively posh school, but not if it's not like a private fee-paying school, I'm not going to hold that against them. I mean, the thing is, no one chooses what school they go to. Your parents choose which fucking school you go to, right? But, like, it does inform a person's worldview if they are from that very privileged elite. And it doesn't appear that any of those people are. Houses equals forms. Well, yes and no, right? Okay, I'll just put it this way. It might seem like a distinction without a difference, but when they talk about houses, maybe it's a Harry Potter related influence or whatever, but that seems to me much more a posho thing to do, right? Because it's not just, look, with forms, we're literally just in like, at my school they were named after, because it was a Catholic school, they had like letters for the gospel writers. So each year had 4 forms, and so if you were in like year 10, you'd be in 10A or 10L or 10M or whatever, right, for the gospel writers. And each year, like, it just becomes year 10A, 10, 11A, whatever. And that's just like an administrative, carving up of the year into manageable groups that you can fit inside one classroom. Whereas with houses, it's like a separate belonging, or like an identity. You're from fucking Gryffindor or whatever, you know. Which is a much more posho way of doing it. But anyway, thank you to Vicky with the explanation, and indeed very generous donation. Did you know Lincolnshire still operates on the grammar school system? Yeah, there are a couple of places. Is it Kent that does as well, or something? I think there are a couple of places in the UK that still do, and I don't know why that's allowed. I honestly don't know why that's allowed. It's fucking grotesque.
Thing you did. If that was the only thing you did, that's bad enough. You made that tweet about, oh, your Geordie mate didn't get a similar job because he's not black. You made the jokes about how Netflix are going to make a 5-part documentary in Roland Cash. You made the jokes how this story is even more insane than Catch Me If You Can, which is an absolute insane thing to say when it's nowhere even near that. So I find this apology pretty disgusting and completely self-serving. He's not sorry, because if he was sorry, he'd actually reflect on everything he wrote, and even what he said about him being a con man in regards to that lecture, he would apologise to it and reflect on his own ego.
We were divided by language, French and German. I mean, that, to be fair, that's bad either way. If you're not speaking English, you're speaking French or German. Touche.
And behaviour, and say sorry for that. There are other people at Novara who've said sorry for their coverage, which appear far more sincere than this. This apology is face-saving. Even the stuff he was saying about the story being legitimate and how Jason Arde wasn't an obscure professor. What the fuck you on about? No one knew who the fuck he was. 99% of people, I'd say like 99.5% of people, maybe even higher, have never heard of this guy. There are very famous professors in the UK. Brian Cox, for example, right? Do you think Jason Arde is even in the same category as someone like this? Nowhere even close. No one had heard of this guy. I doubt you had heard of this guy, and you're just trying to say that to whitewash what you did. So again, this is the head and face of Novara Media. We'll get back to him a bit later because I'm not done.
No, we had more than 4 forms per year. What? Did I say 4? Well, no, we had more than that. Yeah, it was a big school I went to. Not just that, but the school I went to was part of a complex, I suppose, of like, there are 3 senior schools and 1 junior school that all back onto each other. So there's like a point in a random field where all 4 schools meet. It's like the fucking 4 corners of the 4 state thing in, was it Arizona or wherever the fuck? They're all completely separate schools, but they were built on essentially the same what was previously empty bit of land on the edge of what used to be Solihull, but became essentially an extension of Birmingham, but was still Solihull. Anyway. Hello there, Memes Gamer. Kev, if you can DM me your email or phone number, I can premium share for 1 month. I mean, that's very generous. Thank you very much, Megasphere. But that's not really a solution to the problem. I need to be able to have my own thing. Because like 1 month is good for that, but like I need to have like a permanent like thing, if that makes sense. If you can give your bank card, I can buy YouTube. Thank you. Yeah, I won't do that. We are not a real country, Kev. That is also correct. I'll sort it. I'll just have to put a fucking different card in, or like maybe they'll let me pay with PayPal or something. I don't know. But thank you, yeah. Yeah. Thomas, are you also that Nigerian prince I keep sending money to? Because honestly, I'm hoping he comes through in the end. He's going to send me the money back any day now, I promise you.
With how he often just has the shittiest takes and how he essentially has become the establishment. Because what he's doing there, whether you realise it or not, he's defending the establishment press as well. He's not even coming out principally saying the press shouldn't pursue the story or they went over the top. He was defending the press. He was saying Jason Arde, he called the cops on the press. We have to bow down to the British press, which are a beacon of integrity and just trying to find out the truth. Again, disgusting. But we'll leave him alone for a little bit and we'll go on to the rest of the Novara media. So this is like the straw that broke the camel's back, like all this coverage. But at the same time, for a long time, people have been annoyed with them. I remember my old professor, and he posted on Blue Sky about the time I released my video about them going in the direction of TYT. He's like, what is the problem with Ash and her book tour, where she's just going on all these establishment podcasts and just having the same anecdote again and again and again to try and basically integrate herself into the establishment and also sell her book? And attacking the left constantly to sell your book, I think is so fucking cowardly. And I hate people who do this. AOC recently did this as well. Woke One was crazy. Attacking the left on establishment shows, literally, I find it sickening, and it's so fucking frustrating because if there are problems within the left,
I don't know,
think you can
255.
obviously have problems amongst leftists, but running off to the centre and establishment and going, oh yeah, I'm calling out all those woke crazies. Listen to this anecdote about Anne Frank and salad spinners or whatever the fuck she's talking about. So here is her telling basically the same anecdote to promote her book called Minority Rule. And this became...
Yeah, I have to say the Ash Sarkar book tour thing didn't sit right with me as well.
Part of their coverage for a long time. So much like woke is dead coverage on Novara. And just before we get into these clips, you would think Novara might need a bit of wokeness back, because if they were more woke, maybe they would see the problems in what they were saying about Jason Arde. Maybe if they were more anti-racist, they'd see the problem in this. And Novara strikes me increasingly as a more socially conservative leftist platform, where the leftism is actually being drawn to the centre as well.
Somebody saying that Anne Frank had white privilege. I mean, if she did, it didn't f***ing help her. Like, it didn't
I think
work.
that's fair.
She
had white privilege.
She had white privilege.
Yeah. She had other problems, though.
She had white privilege, other problems. You have examples where someone was talking about the, exploitation of, like, DoorDash delivery riders in the United States, and someone was like, but actually, what if you're disabled and then you need them to bring your groceries? And it's like, well, the person complaining about this DoorDash delivery driver wasn't disabled, so, like, where's this come from? But I think that some of the examples which are most laughable, and I think actually get much less attention in our current media environment, is that there is a weaponisation of this form of identity politics in the interests of pro-Israeli advocacy. So at the Francis Crick Institute, some researchers wanted to put on a bake sale to raise money for medical aid for Palestinians. There was then a flurry of complaints to HR saying that it was an allegedly peaceful bake sale, and it made them feel personally threatened and unsafe. If you feel unsafe around a slice of lemon drizzle cake, that's on you.
Finding clutter everywhere.
To be fair, Israel use way worse tactics than even that, to be honest. The fact that Israel are misusing
I think that's
well-intentioned people for their own ends shouldn't be a reason to do or to not do anything. Israel being cunts is not like a thing that needs to be factored in. It's just a reality of it.
It's a really interesting point, because
Hasbro gonna Hasbro regardless.
Often, I think the way this is often portrayed in the media is I mean, you're alluding to sort of the idea in a sense of sort of snowflakery, right? And that's often associated with the left, or it's often used as a term of abuse or an insult from the right to the left. But the truth is, what you're describing this, and I agree with you, I think it is a really pervasive and a problem, this kind of cult of brittleness, this cult of endless kind of subjectifying or objectifying your own subjective experience. That's there on the right as well.
I opened the chapter by talking about an event that I was facilitating in Liverpool. So there's like a couple of hundred people. Everyone wants to discuss what the left has got wrong, where do we need to go next? And Roger Hallam, who is the co-founder of Extinction Rebellion, and Just Stop Oil, who's serving time at the moment, he gets up and he says, well, what's gone wrong is that everyone in this room is a fucking cunt. And then you had all these people who were saying, you've brought violence into the space, I've been harmed, everyone's been harmed, this is white anger. Like, somehow it became a racial thing, and I was like, cunt is not what the C in POC stands for. like this is not a racialized.
Also, you're kind of proving his point. Like, yeah. Look, if that's your reaction to it, you are a cunt. That's just the end of it. Yeah. But the thing is, again, the problem with this framing is that essentially you're throwing leftists under the bus. Now, you don't necessarily owe anybody anything if just because you hold similar opinions or something like that. You don't have to, like, necessarily cater absolutely everything you say and do to make sure that everyone's happy, because for a start, if you're on the left, you can't make everyone happy. It isn't possible. It's not like trying to herd cats, it's like trying to herd fleas or something. They're just jumping this way and that and the other, and everyone's fucking, like, you can't be all things to all people on the left. It isn't possible. Honestly, a leftist can start an argument with themselves over dialectics in a fucking empty room, you know? Anyway, but the point is, you when you do this kind of, we've had a kind of resurgence of this recently with, like, AOC doing the woke one. Firstly, what the fuck was woke one? I didn't realise there was like stages of woke now that we're doing. We're now doing woke 2.0, woke 2 electric boogaloo. You know, what the fuck is this? But secondly, or more importantly, I suppose, is when you say woke one was crazy, firstly, you're admitting to the framing that the right wing are using, and you're essentially saying, you're essentially cooking out, you're capitulating to the conservative point of view. You're saying you were right about everything and we were wrong. Well, if they were right about everything, why should you ever take a thing you say seriously ever again? Why would anyone listen to you? If you're that fucking stupid that you can't see the woke has gone crazy when you're in the middle of the woke thing, why should I take your analysis of anything again very seriously? You've shown yourself to be an incompetent. Oh yeah, that humongous guy, yeah. Yeah. Also, like, again, the things that people complain about are so fucking frivolous. Oh no, a person said that Anne Frank had white guilt. So what? Literally, I don't give a fuck what people go online and say any old shit. Wokamon go to the polls. True. True. Like, for me, whether you call it wokeness or political correctness or whatever, I don't really care. For me, I think it is a noble endeavour to try and be more inclusive with your language. What I despise is the co-option of that tactic to hide injustice. Now, what I mean by that is, on an interpersonal level, you should try and not be racist, right? You should try and not be racist. In fact, you should be anti-racist and try and seek to destroy racism where it exists. And it exists in institutions far more dangerously than it does in an individual. And I've used this example several times, but I think it absolutely works. That the same racism that allowed for not just the death of, but the covering up of, and the justification of, and the glorification of the death of I was going to say George Floyd. Actually, George Floyd is another great example of this. But you know, hang on 1 second, chap. Oh, it's alright. Sneezing. Oh. No, I was sneezing. Sorry, chap. And now I'm all fucking snotty. Oh. Oh, that's grim. Thank you, Vicky. Apparently the Supreme Court in the US has let Trump block mail-in voting. Well, of course they have. They're his fucking picked freaks. Did you get the start of me sneezing? Is that what that noise was? Okay. Well, there you go. Oh, my bad. I tried to hit the the mute button and obviously didn't do it quite in time. So, right. Where was I? What was I talking about, chat? Oh, political correctness and all that bollocks. Right, yeah. So, the same institutional racism that allowed the cover up and the protection of the murderers of Stephen Lawrence, George Floyd is an example that for some reason popped into my head as well, presumably because it's another racist murder that the police had a role in, shall we say. Anyway, no, I'm fine. I was just sneezing. Yeah, the same racism that existed in the police force back in the 1990s that allowed Stephen Lawrence's murderers to walk free exists in the police today. It's just the police cover that shit up with a sign outside the police station that says "Welcome to the police station" in English and Urdu and Arabic or whatever, very Chinese, that sort of thing. That I find one of the most despicably cynical things. And that's something you can and should be angry at, and I am disgusted about. But what Ash is talking about is like an individual said that Anne Frank had white privilege. I don't give two fucks if some cunt said a dumb thing once. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I care that the same people who are advocating for a fucking genocide will call you a racist and call you a fucking an anti-Semite for daring to say, oh, they're doing genocide. Giving into culture war slop over actual institutional co-option and racism, you're doing the right wing's job for them. You're falling into the trap they want you to fall in. It's a very obvious trap they've set, and you've gone for it.
At all. How is it that a room full of adults can be derailed in such a way? I didn't write about this in the book because I wasn't at this organisers weekend, but a friend was, where they were doing an icebreaker where you had to pretend to be a kitchen utensil, and someone pretended to be a salad spinner, and then some other people said, well, that's white supremacist and classist because who has a salad spinner? And then they were like, well, I came from a working class single parent family and we had a salad spinner, and then the whole thing grinds to a halt because everyone's arguing over who's been the most harmed. I just don't think Angela Davis did this. I don't think that Huey Newton did this. I don't think that George Jackson, when he's in Soledad prison, was like, how have I been harmed? And then was like, okay, but then what accounts for this change? And so I look at the origins of identity politics, and I look at the way in which it has become just so obsessed with the self. And I'm not saying that all of these ideas are bad or that they're always bad, but I think that good ideas have become blown out of proportion and applied to everything. So everything becomes like epistemic harm. And at no point has anyone gone, get a grip. And I think the reason why they don't isn't because they think it's fine. I think it's because they're scared of social ostracism.
If you follow Navarro or Ash promoting...
God, that was right-wing shit.
This book, she tells the exact same anecdotes every time. And what is the point of telling these anecdotes, right? It's the shit on the left to promote her book, because I feel like if you're an actual left...
Well, exactly, yeah. She's throwing the left under the bus for her own gain, which is gross.
And a socialist, you can make the distinction between activist bubbles, the lib left, and the left as a whole. So she's talking about like these very activist groups where people are talking about identity. She even used the phrase that Dave Rubin popularized called the Oppression Olympics. And I just reject this so hard. In the context of the UK, saying the left...
Dave Rubin, there's a name I've not heard in a very long time. Is he still alive? I mean, he's always been dead inside, but like, is he still technically alive?
Is failing because we're too woke, I think is so fucking stupid. The UK left is dominated by white men. Organised left in the form of like rail unions and stuff. There is nothing woke about them. Zach Balansky's like pretty good on this stuff. Jeremy Corbyn was okay on this stuff, but I wouldn't say Jeremy Corbyn was...
Candace Owens called him a Peter. Well, Candace Owens thinks that the fucking Brigitte Macron has a cock, so I don't care. I don't give a fuck what she has to say about anything. Rubin got himself slaughtered on Jubilee. Oh, I didn't see that. He's still around. Oh, that's a shame. Did the 50 state landslide happen yet? Did the 51 state landslide happen? I don't know.
was undone because of identity politics. And I wouldn't say this very small bubble she exists in, this activist bubble, is reflective of the wider UK left. Yes, annoying people do exist in ultra lefty circles and stuff like that. Would I go on the establishment press, and that guy, remember, who she's talking to in this, is the guy who was attacking Hassan for being anti-Israel, would I go up to him and be like, yeah, the left are crazy, aren't they? They think Anne Frank has white privilege. They think this thing is racist. They think they're oppressed because of this. It's just so disingenuous, and it feels like a grift. It's like, I am the only lefty who will call out the wokeness. And do you know what these people do, Ash and AOC? You're basically telling Conservatives they were right all along. And don't just take my word for it. Here's Michael.
Jesus Christ. No pre-watch chat. It's just we've both got based opinions, clearly.
Ash talking about defund the police and basically insinuating that being against prisons and the police, Ash is a communist, by the way, or a self-described communist, that is childish, and actually prisons need to...
I'm literally a communist?
...exist because she personally knows someone who should be in prison.
But I remember saying at the time, like on Twitter, you know, like, defund kind of makes sense if you...
AOC disowns woke BLM demands. Does that include the... actually, you know, voting against funding for Israeli fucking arms? You know, that sort of thing, AOC? Maybe? Just saying.
You're just saying there are other ways to deal with crime and that America should maybe be a bit more like a social democracy, a bit more European in sort of like how it deals with crime and punishment. And it's good that people move away from abolish and they're going to defund because it seems a bit more reasonable. And the amount of people online that would be like, what the hell are you talking about? You're speaking over activists. It's defund as a route to abolish, yada, yada, yada. You know, why do you need your voice to be heard on this issue? Da, 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 da. And so I just stopped tweeting about it, which is fine for me. But I feel like both on that debate and, I mean, even more controversial one.
Oh no, the left have silenced Michael Walker. Oh no, now he only has a massive fucking platform on like the biggest leftist media organisation in the country. Oh, won't the boot of the woke get off this man's neck and allow him to speak? Does he not deserve a voice? Fucking hell. Cancelled, we've cancelled him. He's been silenced, which is why you can't hear his voice ever again.
Sort of some of the trans debates, the main consequence for, I think, lots of people was to just back out of all the discussion. And what that means is that discussion is only ever dominated by people with quite specific views because everyone else thinks this is not worth it. Oh my God.
Something which...
So in other words, you're a transphobic twat and you got called out for it, so now you don't talk about it, therefore you've been silenced. Cool. I can't wait to see his Why I Left the Left arc. It can't be far off. Let's be honest, chat. If one of these dominoes is going to fall, it's going to be this lad. I can't wait. I can't wait to see him do a book tour in Israel. It's going to be fun.
Which I've changed my mind on is that, you know, I would talk about abolition and abolition of prisons and abolition of the police because, like a lot of people, I was coming from that position of having seen the impacts of racist policing like fairly close up, having also seen the way in which prisons contribute to the social ills that they purport to be solving. Because when you take someone out of their, you know, family unit, out of their community, put them in prison, you're sort of creating a tear, right? A tear in the social fabric, which has all of these different consequences. And something which changed my mind about it was actually an experience of incarceration within my own family.
They're speaking so fast because I've sped them up, because I keep interrupting, which ironically I'm currently doing to explain why I've done it.
Family where I actually thought this person needs to be in prison, right? There isn't an alternative to this person being in prison, and in a moral society and in a just society, that's where they should be. And whenever I tried to bring this up with friends of mine who were still abolitionists, they just couldn't wrap their head around that part. And when I would say, but hang on, like...
Okay, like, yeah, there are bad people. We know. But, like, the prison system, as we currently have it, doesn't help anyone. Like, the only people it helps are people who run private prisons. That's it. Or not, well, not, they're not private in that sense, but like the G4S contracted prisons, which just put people on a conveyor belt to reoffending. It's just like a recidivist's dream. Most of the people who are in there shouldn't really be in there. They should either be put to some positive use in their communities to right the wrongs that they've done, or be in some sort of medical care. These are people who are often ill, be it mental or physical. These are people who suffer from addictions, which, by the way, you can often get fucking drugs more easily inside of prisons than you can outside of fucking prisons. So sending them there is most assuredly not going to help people. It turns people who may have committed relatively petty crimes into lifelong prisoners. It institutionalizes people. It would not help the person you are referring to, or indeed their family, to see their relative turned into an animal. Because that's essentially what you become. You get turned into a beast of crime, firstly, and secondly, a person who is more comfortable in a cage. Because they can't function in normal society anymore. Because they have been, for the profit of the rich, institutionalized. Absolutely disgusting. Whether you are an abolitionist or not, the current prison system is not a place to send humans to. It's not a thing to send anything to. It is a system to be destroyed. I actually agree there needs to be some place where we can hold the most dangerous people. For their own good as much as anything else. Because, of course, if you're a danger to the community, there's a likelihood that the community will react in ways, that would be dangerous for the individual themselves. So for the protection of everyone, we do need to have people who are held against their will for the betterment of everybody, including the person themselves. The British prison system, and indeed the sort of carceral prison system more broadly, is not the way to go, though.
Like, aren't we proposing a society where prisons are eliminated? Then it would get into these very semantic arguments of, well, no, because whatever force we have to deprive people of their liberty or separate them off from society would be so different from the police, it would no longer be called police, which I just think is an argument about language. It's not an argument about content. Obviously, I want how policing operates and prisons work to be really different. Or it would be a setting of homework. Right? Well, if you go and read Ruth Wilson Gilmore. And so I have since come to the conclusion that abolition is often invoked, and I'm not saying this about Ruth Wilson Gilmore or Angela Davis, who I'm sure have thought a lot about this, but it's often used by people in the movement to make reform sound spicier than it actually is. And I think that has got something to do with subculture. I think it's got something to do with the way people turn to politics when what they actually want is either subculture, like you're not a real punk, I'm a real punk, or religion, which is a certain form of certainty if this is. Whereas politics is actually about negotiation and prioritization, persuasion, coalition building. These things which have various forms of compromise kind of built into it, because that's what it means to negotiate something politically. And again, I just don't think that people, and there are good reasons for this. I think that when you watch the video of Eric Garner being choked to death, or George Floyd being suffocated, or you hear the 911 call, Trayvon Martin being killed by George Zimmerman, all of these things have a very visceral effect, right? You don't really want to think politically and tactically. You do feel, so morally outraged and offended, it's very right and it's very wrong. But if you're making political demands, actually...
Need to get sorted first thing?
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but... Correct me if I'm wrong, but... Abolish prisons doesn't mean we just let violent and dangerous criminals walk free, right? That is my understanding of it, yes.
First stop, tool station.
If you can only perform when the deadline is on fire, here are 3 things that will...
Right or wrong is just...
That they hurt, chat. These adverts hurt me.
Just one component of it.
So I don't know who this family member...
And the only thing that can fix my pain is money. Okay? So, like, if you don't give me money, it's like you want me to be in pain, to hurt. Which is, that's cruel. That's cruel, chat. It's not very woke of you at all.
Member is. I don't know what they've done. I'm sorry if it's a close family member who has done really terrible things, that it has changed your whole mind on defund the police and abolish prisons and stuff like that. But at the same time, if you are a communist, you should not be basing your worldview on an anecdote like that, as hard as it can be. It's all about, like, reforming police, reforming prisons. And that's why it always blows my mind that 2 of these people meant to be communists. I'm not sure what Michael Walker is. Seems to be an Elon Musk fanboy.
He went in the cook chair. I didn't know that. So for those who don't know, what's his face? 30p Lee Anderson, member of parliament did a show on GB News where he'd have like a right winger sat next to him on like the top, because you can just see his hand, you can see Anderson's hands there, and then he'd have a leftist sat all the way over the other side of the room in the cock chair, and people agreed to go on and be in the cock chair. Ah, that's sad.
Or who likes sitting on the cuck chair at GB News.
It's getting harder and harder to convince you I haven't pre-watched, isn't it? Yeah, why are there ovens there? That's really weird. Yeah.
The same thing as AOC. It's like, oh, I matured and I grew up and I don't support these things. But if you're anti-capitalist, the whole institution of policing and prisons exists to protect the capitalist status quo. She's using personal anecdotes of people she knows in activist circles, completely shit on this position. I guess in the UK, because it's not as severe, people can kind of justify it as, well, I don't want to abolish the police. But abolishing the Met...
Could there come a point where no justice... well, look, you'd have to ask Helena that. I have no idea, mate. Presumably there is a point at which, if an organisation changes, she would have to reconsider or whatever, but like... She seems perfectly comfortable there right now.
Met Police, for me, seems to be such a common sense position. Like, the Met Police exist to protect the status quo, to protect capital, and protect the upper class. Obviously, things like abolishing the police don't exist in a vacuum, and the way they're even framing it is you think that we want to snap my fingers and there's no police and there's no prisons, just straight away, like release all the most violent criminals, police off the streets immediately. It's about a process that gets you to the point of getting rid of the police as we know it and getting rid of prisons, because prisons serve as punishment, not rehabilitation, and prisons serve as a mechanism you use to basically hide away the faults of a society that does not provide for people to live a life without resulting to things that we can agree that are morally bad. And yes, there might be the rare cases, which I would argue is the minority of the prison population, like a small minority of people who, for one reason or another, cannot really be allowed to exist in the same sort of society as the rest.
Well, the thing is, policing in a socialist society should be much more different, but given the experiences of the countries that called themselves communist in the, say, Eastern Bloc, they didn't seem a great deal better. The policing seemed eerily reminiscent. It's just that the capital it was serving, or the owners it was serving, were a slightly different configuration of evil bastards instead. Which isn't much better, really. Anyway, thank you, Vicky, who says, everyone always forgets how much experience the prison/prison system lost when Tories defunded them, making things way worse. That is also true, but the prison system's always been shit. It was designed to be shit. It was designed as a punishment. In theory, to be so bad that people wouldn't want to go back there. Forgetting, of course, that it doesn't really work. Humans don't work like that. Yeah. And also to protect capital and property owners.
The rest of us. And you wouldn't advocate for mental torture.
Again, the example I always give is always like a G8 meeting. There are protesters protesting on behalf of the working class, and there are the owners inside the building making evil deals that fuck people over. Which way are the police's guns pointed? That tells you who they work for. What do you make of Norway's prison system? I don't know a lot about it. I know they have like a maximum sentence thing, which does seem a bit light for the most serious crimes. If you're going to do carceral state, you do have to actually do it. You can't give murderers 7 years or whatever. That's just fucking stupid. Or what's the point of that exactly? But anyway, like I in general, I don't agree that the carceral system actually is of any real practical use for humanity. Again, it is practical use for those in power and for the private enterprises that make money off of it, but not so much the people of the country in which it organises. Do you think it's too idealistic? No, not really, 255.
for these people forever by putting them in a tiny cell with a load of other people like who are also probably mentally unwell and violent as well, you would probably have a separate institution for these people in some regard. Prisons, as we understand it, wouldn't be there because prisons don't rehabilitate. The police, by and large, don't protect us. The police don't solve crimes. Police can't be asked to do anything. And if I use my own anecdote in my own life, the police have been absolutely useless even when I've been a victim of a violent crime because they can't be asked, but they know they're protected by their union. They know they're protected by their cushy job. The police are class traitors, and I want to make a video because I want to talk about my version of society, but I feel like if you're a communist, shitting on these positions while shitting on wokeness, like, what are you even doing? You will literally sound no different to the establishment, and our role, I feel like, as communist public figures and YouTubers and stuff, is to change people's mind about stuff. So how are you going to go from I support defund the police and I support prison abolition to let's reform the police, and actually I think prisons are good because I know someone who should be in prison? And I feel like this speaks to a wider problem that I have had with so many people on the left. I feel like no one these days has political convictions, and I feel like these people might have been corrupted, whether they, owning property for the first time, having higher bills, Navarra not paying enough money, wanting to sell your book, or maybe just some sort of ego trip, or maybe being in, this
No one has principles. This is where it starts to get into fart huffy territory, I think. This is like the left. It's almost sort of virtue signaling. No one, brackets, except me, has political principles anymore. Like, there's an underlying, jerking yourself off when you say something, like that.
Political activist bubble, but it's just increasingly out of touch. And also, what do you even offer people? Why would people listen to Navarra Media? Just for pretty centre left?
Well, because No Justice is on it, and she's a fucking queen.
Coverage of most issues while you're also social reactionaries, and that's something I find increasingly common with these people. And to prove my point, listen to both of them talk about social media bans for under 16. So I made a few videos on this channel. The social media bans for under 16s are pretty much designed to ensure that young people can be as brainwashed as possible for the longest time. It is giving parents and the state so much more control over young people. And it's also a very patronizing view of young people to think that a 15-year-old shouldn't be allowed on social media, especially when you've grown up on social media yourself. And I feel like with Navarra specifically, they're out of touch in terms of even their age. I think older millennials are so out of touch with young people. As someone who is a zillennial,
yeah, 255. Yeah, there's definitely there's a messaging problem. Some of the slogans that leftists choose to use, like defund the police or prison abolition or whatever, which don't really sum up the policies that are being prescribed, need to be rethought. They're not winning PR strategies, are they?
Myself, and their takes about this are so shit. They just unquestioningly support a Zionist government hell-bent on surveillance and hell-bent on authoritarianism. This was under Keir Starmer. Just being yeah, ban all children off social media, because in my experience, social media is bad.
Going back to originality and what you like and what you don't.
It's like they're insulting me with this.
On the show, but I totally agree with Keir Starmer. I think the ban is justified, and I also think that when people say it will be evaded, I think it's absolutely right to say just because an invasion will happen doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. I think probably the ban will happen. It'll work out. A lot of people will be evading it, and you'll gradually shift the mechanism so that fewer and fewer people are able to do it. But also, the most important thing is changing the norm. Right at the moment, young people expect that they'll be spending 4 hours a day at least on social media. I think we need to end that expectation because it's been a disaster. Someone at that age spending 9 hours on their phone over the weekend is not ideal. We know the mental health of young people is not very good. People are meeting.
Exactly. Ban all children. Children need to be banned from existing. Fact. It should be illegal to be a child.
Real life, much less than they're used to. They're drinking less. To go back to what Keir Starmer said, I think actually kids could do with not kids. But for me, when I was 16 and 17, going and sort of having
a bottle of Frosty Jacks.
That was important for my development. I think the idea, if I was just at home instead, scrolling through TikTok and messaging people, I don't think that would have been good for my development. Anyway, Ash, your response to the ban?
I actually agree with this. I'm not saying it's perfect, and I think there are some elements of the mechanism to be worried about. The normalisation of digital ID is, I think, something to worry about, especially when you go, there's going to be all these third-party identification apps being used, where it's where is my data going? All right, there are things that I think you're right to be worried about. But when it comes down to it, social media is designed to be addictive. Infinite scroll is designed to be addictive in a way which bypasses user awareness. And we see the effect that it has on us who are adults. And also,
yeah, someone who makes 3-hour-long videos and video essays need to do one about leftist sloganeering. Because we used to be better at that. And now we're just not.
So we weren't born to it. So I remember the sound of a dial-up modem, right? I remember when you couldn't be on the phone at the same time as using the internet. I remember what it was like to use MySpace and Facebook at first. I remember what social media was like before Infinite Scroll. And so even though all these things entered my life later in my development, I am still an addict to individualized screens. I find it difficult sometimes to just participate in everyday life, and I start to feel anxious or weird and not present, and I use one of these screens to self-soothe. And I know that I'm not alone in that. I don't think it's the mark of a good society which allows corporations to prey as they wish to on children, and absolutely wrecking their attention span, their ability to self-soothe, their ability to deal with boredom, like all of these things. I don't think there's anything like good or left-wing about that. And there are some people I've seen who are, on the left, on Twitter, so they're addicts like me, right, in the grip of an active addiction, just like me, saying, oh, well, it's up to parents to raise their kids, use parental controls. Like, I actually think that's quite... Who do you think's more powerful? Right? Your average mum or dad who has to deal with like work and pressures on their lives and all stuff like that. Or like Silicon Valley billionaires who are pouring money into making sure that we can't control ourselves with these apps. So I think that there is a naivety around that, which is quite deliberate. Do you think it's wrong that YouTube is included in the ban? I think short form YouTube videos should be included, but YouTube long form videos shouldn't. And it's not to say that all content on YouTube is good, right? Obviously there's like misogyny and great replacement stuff and yada, 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 but there's a load of material on there which...
And then there's cool content like, my stream, which is awesome. And you can fund for 99 pence with memberships on YouTube.
Which is genuinely not just educational, but it allows children...
my selling game is weak.
...to explore their interests.
And in case anyone thinks this is self-serving, because you're probably watching us on YouTube, Novara Media does also have a very popular Instagram account and a popular TikTok account, and we do YouTube Shorts. And they definitely should ban TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts for young people. So it's not just whatever Novara Media is on.
So I do find it funny that...
They're ridiculous, yeah. Support of a fucking authoritarian government wanting to crack down on shit. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Look, whenever you find yourself saying, I agree with Keir Starmer, stop and rethink.
They acknowledge the consequences of like, yeah, this could be used to just like roll out digital ID forever, but it's actually a good thing to do the ban. And it's just so naive. They're basing their view on social media on their own personal experience of social media, how they're addicted, how Michael Walker would rather you being out getting pissed at 16 rather than sitting at home using TikTok. You know what it is? It's like boomer slop. It's boomer slop. It's the exact same shit boomers would have said about their kids using, I don't know, the phone, or using like even just like a landline phone, or then their...
Oh, 255, that's adorable. That kid's going places, okay? Probably prison for fraud, but they're going places.
Their kids using the internet for the first time. It's boomer slop. And one thing that's hard to do when you get older, like you have an experience of a certain thing, and then you're always going to think it's better. Like I used social media growing up. I used Facebook. I used Twitter when I was like 16, 15 years old, and I had a generally good experience, right? So that colour...
I didn't, because they didn't exist then, because I'm fucking old. I'm nearly dead, chat. R.I.P. Kev.
Is my perception, the same way they say it colours their perception. But I grew up in this age of social media, and I don't think children should be banned for it. I definitely think 15-year-olds should not be banned from social media, and they're saying, oh, well, YouTube, that should be the exception. YouTube shouldn't be banned. But again, it's the boomer mentality, the establishment mentality. Kids like short-form content as a way of getting their education, as a way of getting their news. You might not like it, and yeah, there are probably bad attention span side effects. At the same time, when I look at myself watching YouTube at 15, I don't look at myself saying, well, you should have been out getting pissed on Frosty Jacks every day. There are obviously lots of problems with social media, but the solution isn't banning kids and ostracizing them even further, because he's saying stuff like, oh, they should go out and be social. Why do you think children aren't doing that? Why do you think young people aren't doing that? Is it because they're all addicted to their phones and that's the only problem? Or has increasingly this country cut everything to the bone, where kids do not have these places to hang out together after school, these places where they can chill out after school?
Yeah, to be fair, there is also the kind of boomer complaining thing of, oh, it's the kids these days. The kids, and they're all on their bloody phone. They're all on that TikTok. You know, it's a new version of the same shit that boomer weird freaks have been fucking pumping out for years. Actually, pre-boomers, I suppose, because they used to say this about TV. Oh, these kids these days, they just sit in front of a TV. A black and white TV. You see some of them, the posh ones, they've got colour TVs. Ooh, fancy. It's brain rot. It'll fucking destroy society. You're like, oh, God almighty. And that's without even getting into, like, the D&D fucking comic book, Satanism type fucking scares that happened, you know.
As you guys know, I've lived in Asia before, and one thing that's nice about Asia is there's so many community spaces for children to just chill and hang out in a way there wasn't when I was growing up as a kid in the UK. And yeah, these people still use their phones and stuff, and maybe I would even say Asian countries are more addicted to their phones, but at the same time, you see more kids hanging out and just chilling with each other because they have these third spaces. That's the problem. Social media regulation...
Yeah, it all started with fucking Elvis Presley shaking his hips. Society's never fucking recovered. You know what? It's all these kids now that now we've got this printing press. It's too easy to get stuff to read. These young'uns today wouldn't even know how to use a quill.
My opinion is okay in certain contexts. Wholesale bans against kids from even being a part of the online community is absolutely ridiculous. And if you're going to build any sort of political solidarity, I was a political person when I was 15. I've been into politics since I was very, very young. I watched political YouTube when I was 15. And saying to like the 2026 15-year-old me, if that exists somewhere, actually no social media for you. No YouTube, no TikTok, no Instagram Reels, nothing. Go read a book. And it's just a way to stop people socializing online. And that's something they don't seem to realize, that you can socialize online. When I moved out of England, I had to suddenly form online relationships with my longtime friends, and that's actually fine. And we still have the relationship, and it actually doesn't feel like anything's changed. We play video games together. And what happened when I was a kid, after school, we'd come home, we'd all play Call of Duty and GTA 4 online. This is before I was 16, and we'd all talk to each other, and we might not have seen each other much in the school day, and that's how we socialise. Or they might have gone to a different school, some of my friends, and that's how we socialise. You can socialise online, and even that, with these bans, kids are banned from Xbox Live as well. They're banned from talking to people on Xbox Live. You can see the social reactionary brains of these people. Oh, defund the police and prison abolition is now stupid, and it polls badly, so I don't believe that anymore. And actually, Keir Starmer and the authoritarian Zionist Labour government creating a massive tech surveillance state is a good thing, because social media makes me feel bad and I think I'm an addict. This just isn't a channel where you're going to find people with strong political convictions. Seems to be they just go whichever way the wind blows on certain issues, and something...
Except no Justice MTJ, just saying.
Ash said in the Defund the Police segment is about how it polls badly with like black people and stuff. And I actually said this in my video about them last time, that they have electoral brain poison, where you base what you advocate for based on polling data of what's popular. Aaron Bastani was also talking about how, yeah, the left aren't relatable to ordinary people. And these two, you know, firmly in a political bubble, politics nerds, they're telling everyone, like, oh, the left aren't relatable. But also something these people ignore, and it's same with TYT, they keep pulling out polls in the video talking about, oh, well, this is unpopular, this is unpopular. It's for many things, it's because of the framing we often deal with and because of propaganda. Like, how much propaganda do we consume in the UK and US where people can't even imagine a world where the police do not exist in the way they do today, right? So you have to factor all that stuff in about capitalist realism and just like generally people being brainwashed to not imagine a better world. That's why left-wing people have to fight for that better world, which then maybe becomes popular. Like, do you think if Fidel Castro and Che Guevara went around the whole of Cuba doing a little survey about, would you like us to overthrow the government and do communism? Everyone would be like, oh yeah, please do that. Something being unpopular and right doesn't mean we can't have this argument and educate people, and we don't have to just do what's popular all the time, or nothing fucking changes. I'm getting hung up on this point, but that is the constant frustrating thing with dealing with a lot of people on the left who just are so, like, they're just political nerds, I'll call them. Like, they can only think about things in terms of elections and polling. They themselves can't imagine a better world because they just think, oh, I can't do this because this person will think it's unpopular. Yeah, sometimes...
Well, no, it's... Okay. I'll sort of try and reframe that in a more generous fashion, I think. For me, it's about trying to meet people where they're at. It's not a matter of kowtowing to anybody or, like, desperately seeking their fucking stupid approval or whatever. It's saying that it's like trying to talk to a fucking, I don't know, a zebra or something. It's not going to understand what you're saying, and so you have to try and essentially teach the zebra how to communicate. You have to teach, you know, the person with no class consciousness at least some semblance of class consciousness. Because the idea that you're going to just be able to state a position and just argue to it in the current context, I don't think really works. It's not a matter of just saying, oh, it's because people would find it unpopular. It's because they wouldn't really even understand what you're saying. That's why leftist slogans don't work. Because people just hear the scary words and get, like, terrified and run away. It's not because those ideas, when actually explained to people, are always fantastically unpopular. Because we saw from people, I mean, Jeremy Corbyn is not radical necessarily, but we saw from people like Jeremy Corbyn, when given an opportunity to explain vaguely leftist concepts, people were receptive to it. He did really well in winning people around. Ordinary, regular fucking normie-ass bastards to a more progressive way of doing governance. And I think that and people like Mamdani are a really interesting example of leftists who kind of get both a semblance of the principle of it, but also the optics of it. That's the thing. And it's not just about optics, but I think optics are an important part of it. That leftists, in a kind of race towards idealistic purity, forget that optics are an important way of, like, they're an important part of it. The way you put your message across matters. Just stating communist ideas or whatever doesn't work on its own, if that makes sense.
Fighting for your rights and fighting for a better world is unpopular. It doesn't mean you should give up, and that's just not the way to do left-wing politics, is base it on what a general public who are largely brainwashed by a capitalist system feel about issues of crime or police when it's framed in a very right-wing way, and propaganda is fed to them in just every facet of their daily lives.
Because prison abolition is not popular, because social media bans are quite popular and stuff, I support that thing. But especially with Ash and Aaron, you're meant to be communists. What you believe is not popular, and it is your job to educate people on why that should be done. Prison abolition and defunding and abolishing the police in a capitalist society for a communist is a no-brainer. And you should be advocating for that and making the arguments and put forward to people how you can push society in that direction. Like I said, you know in your lifetime the revolution isn't coming. You know in your lifetime probably the...
Thank you for sending Jules. I'll put the alert box back on so I actually fucking see those things. Apologies if, because it doesn't highlight that message. It just says in the normal text. Like, I'll show you what I see, right? Which I presume is what you see as well. So it literally will just say, hang on, I can't really, can I zoom in on that? I'll bigger it. I'll bigger it. There we go. So it just says, the horror thonk sent hiding ... for 10 joules. But it doesn't highlight that for me. So that just reads like a message. So when I read sent hiding, I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Are they responding to somebody else in chat that I've not seen? I don't know. I do in big and my own dick. Anyway. Why did it bigger that script? Oh, that's very annoying. Don't do that. There we go.
Most change you're going to see, if it's in a positive direction, is some sort of maybe reform, but that's why you have to take steps to educate the next generation, who can hopefully educate the next generation about why your unpopular opinion, which is morally right, why that is something you should believe in. And as someone, if you believe in communism and this march towards communism, you see your role in that as this educator, this person with a public platform. And that's what I'm trying to say is, when you watch Novara, are you getting any of that? Are you getting...
Do leftists sound elitist? They might sound elitist to some people, but I don't know how else you describe a situation of brainwashing without sounding like that. So, like, if the accusation is people are incorrect to think that that other people are being brainwashed, that's one message. That's one thing, right? But if there is actual genuine brainwashing going on, to the people who have been brainwashed, how do you not sound elitist to point out the brainwashing? If that makes sense.
Anything that is against the establishment? Are you getting anything that's against the status quo? Or is it all about reforming it? So I don't understand why anyone there calls himself even a socialist. They seem at best social democrats who would think all our problems would go away if we just copied Denmark or something. So let's get back more onto how Novara is just becoming the establishment. So Aaron Bastani is a very regular guest on GB News. And like I said, in his head, he's probably like, I go on GB News because conservatives watch it. I go on there to be the leftist voice. I go on there as the Trojan horse. They're going to be exposed to my communism through me going into the lion's den, essentially, right? Which I don't agree with that argument anyway, because
I think there's a certain truth to it, actually. I think that's fine. I think there's a perfectly reasonable tactic. I don't think Aaron does the best job of it. I think Curtis from Turn Left does much better with it. Because I think Aaron wants to be liked by that audience more than he wants to necessarily convince that audience. He thinks he's playing a longer game and actually he just ends up conceding too many points.
I think if you go onto like Fox News and these places, these people who watch this shit, they're never going to buy what you're selling, right? Because even if you make a good point in the moment, they will immediately go back to their brainwashing, which comes straight afterwards, because it's just non-stop propaganda in their head. So Bernie Sanders and people going on Fox News, yeah, he's running for president, that's fair enough. But at the same time, they might say something like, oh yeah, Bernie Sanders makes a good point in that. But then the rest of their worldview is completely wrapped up in the propaganda on this network all the time. So in my opinion, you're really not...
Yeah, Ben's pretty good too, yeah, absolutely. Cog is awesome. Yeah, I've said before, I'd happily go on GB News. I'd even not swear. Which for me is big, but I realise there are like broadcasting rules and stuff before the watershed. So I'd even not swear, but I will be putting across more radical views than I think they'd want their viewers to hear. Possibly, I don't know.
Changing anyone's mind going on establishment shows. I can understand at least if you go on there and be completely authentic to your views. Like you go on there and you like...
Now Curtis hasn't been blacklisted. They ask him relatively regularly to go on. No, I don't swear. No, penis. Actually, that's not a swear word, is it? Logan, you stupid cunt. That's better.
Aren't ashamed of it. Like, I am a communist, this is how we should do it. And I've seen some people go on GB News and do that. Aaron Bastani is not someone who goes on GB News and does that. He goes on GB News and basically makes them look more sane than they are. So he was a regular on GB News of Matt Goodwin. This is how much it's worth being a communist going on GB News. The host asked you about your own outlet's work about GB News being a hotbed of Islamophobia. This is how he reacts when the host asks him.
Is there a swear word for prick? Is kind of a swear word, isn't it? It's at the softer end, ironically, of the swear word spectrum, but it is.
Is GB News Islamophobic?
So do you stand by Navarro Media's tweet that calls GB News an engine of Islamophobia?
It is an engine of Islamophobia, 100%.
Wasn't good at my job, but for no other reason.
That's the title of this article.
Yeah, I'm asking you,
Yeah.
do you...
And Navarro, hold on, so Navarro Media is reporting a report. It's relaying the findings of a report by the Centre for Media Monitoring.
Yeah.
So that's not a Navarro report. It's reporting a claim that's made elsewhere.
This is a report that your publication has tweeted, and your guys have called it GB News is an engine of Islamophobia. I'm asking you. You work here. You've been here for you don't work here, but you're on this programme.
Yeah.
You've been on this programme for a long time. You've been on other programmes. Do you think that that is an accurate statement?
I would say the quotes I just told you a moment ago. I think those are Islamophobic quotes.
That's not what I asked.
No, hold on, Michelle.
Why is he hedging like this? Why is he hedging? They are remorselessly Islamophobic. And by the way, dug into the Jason Arde story pretty significantly too. Embarrassing.
GB News is an engine of Islam.
No, because I want to be fair and accurate, and I think your viewers have seen me on here. I try to be fair. I've never heard from you on this show. I've come on many times. I've never heard you say anything remotely Islamophobic. Given you mentioned 9 times in the report, I think that's a reasonable retort. I don't watch GB News enough to say things one way or the other. I would say this. Kelvin McKenzie said something there that, frankly, I don't think the BBC would platform because the BBC has a different approach to these debates. Right, and that's something GB News will say that's our brand, but that's also the facts of the matter,
and
right?
This is the question that I have. Like, what is the context? Because when this report directly quotes me and states that after the general election, Michelle Dewberry called elected MP.
That's a point, actually, Jay. If I did go on GB News, which is not impossible that could happen at some point in the near future, how would everyone feel about that? Like, don't get me wrong. I've explained this before. This channel is not a democracy. I will make my fucking decisions. And I will live and die by them. But how would everyone actually feel about that? I would be interested in your feedback.
MPs, extreme Islamists. When they say that, and actually the reality is, what I actually did is many months before, when we were talking about a situation where MPs had been threatened with violence, where the Speaker of the House had to change parliamentary order, he says, because he was so terrified that MPs would be murdered by terrorists, his words, not mine, then actually I would say that the people...
Are they British News? I don't think they're quite as bad as Newsmax. Like, you're on the right track that they're, like, you know, not very newsy. But they're not as bad as that. Because for a start, you can't be. There are broadcasting rules in the UK. You couldn't do a straightforward Newsmax or One America News or whatever bollocks they want to call it. Yeah, but they're about as out there as you can get without having your license revoked. Although they probably should as well, because they put themselves out as like a balanced news show, and yet they have exclusively like Reform MPs. Or I suppose they've had Jacob Rees-Mogg, a Conservative MP. Look, there's pretty obviously propaganda, you know. I'd only agree if it was a joint stream. Oh, don't get me wrong, I would absolutely record it myself. And you'd get to see the full unedited bit. I'm not going to let them have, like, complete editorial fucking, like, chance to chop me up and all that bollocks. Yeah.
People performing that behaviour are indeed extreme Islamists, full stop. That has nothing to do with, fast forward, multiple months later, referring to separate elected members of parliament. This report is an absolute disgrace. It's inaccurate, it's dishonest, and it's deceitful. And I wonder why, because it's quite sinister. People hate GB News, and they are deliberately...
No, I would not go on in the cuck chair, no. I would go on to be, as with this thing, like a co-equal thing. Yeah. Also, I'm not sure I want to go to London. It'd have to be over a video link, I think. Can I be bothered to go all the way to London to do a 10-minute bit on fucking DB News? I don't think so. I just can't see you not swearing. Well, no, I can not swear. I've done public-facing jobs in the past. Because the thing, chat, you've got to bear in mind, when I do this show, I let myself go, if that makes sense. I don't feel like I need to restrict myself linguistically. So I just swear as and when I can be bothered. But that's not how I am in real life. Because if you went around swearing and being as offensive as I do online, you'd get fucking stabbed. Well, like, of course. And as of yet, I've very luckily lived 39 years on this planet and yet to be stabbed. Although I'm tempting fate there, I suppose, but whatever. Yeah, I can go plenty of time without swearing. In front of my nephew and niece, I absolutely 100% stick to no swearing whatsoever. Even though I don't think necessarily learning to swear at an early age makes you a bad person, I don't think it's fair for you to engage in something which is a controversial thing for children around somebody else's children, if that makes sense. You swear less on turn left than here. Well, exactly, because I feel like I do have to rein myself in at least a little bit on turn left. I think actually in my first turn left I did a proper, like, no swearing whatsoever, and then I sort of, once I realised that Curtis was more chill, I was like, okay, I can swear a bit. Yeah. I just want GB News to get the Hitler outro. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that if I did go on, they'd have one of their little busy beavers would dig into my content and be like, oh, so why did you joke about Anne Widdecombe? She's a saint. And when you know Helena is going to use content. Well, I still swear a bit then as well, but I do rein myself in slightly. And there are some jokes I won't make when I have, like, another person on. Because I don't think it's fair to do, like, those kind of jokes that someone else might not be comfortable with, if that makes sense. Especially if it's being dual broadcasted. Yeah. What was the one I had? That I remember there was a joke that I had in my head. I can't remember why the fuck we were talking about it, but I was on with Helena. This was about a year ago or something. And for some reason, we were talking about John F. Kennedy and football or something. Like there was we were covering something to do with football, and like Kennedy got mentioned and blah blah blah. And I was going to do the joke, right? I was going to do the joke, JFK was actually a really good goalkeeper, right? Because he was absolutely excellent at stopping shots. Now, that is a banger of a joke. I absolutely stick to that. An absolute fucking a delicious one, right? Enough to make your head explode. Jesus Christ. Too soon. It's been barely 60 years. Anyway. It's a high caliber joke. Nice. Nice. Anyway, but I didn't do that joke because I was like, I'm not sure if doing jokes about assassinated people or whatever, like, I'm not sure she'd be totally cool with that, and she's like got a more serious news thing going on, so I held back from doing that joke. And I'm fine with that. That is an editorializing that I will continue to do, because I don't think it's fair to enforce my standards on somebody else, if that makes sense.
Trying to make us a target for, I would say, quite extreme responses.
So what is the point of Aaron on this panel? He doesn't just say to her that, like, yeah, GB News is a hotbed of Islamophobia. I don't watch it enough. You literally fucking go on it. I don't watch it at all, and I know it's true. You are literally on the show with all these racist people, and you're saying, I don't know enough. The guy you're giggling with over drinking with is one of these people. But he's a coward. He's a coward. He can dogpile and make jokes about Jason Arde, one of the most vulnerable, because the establishment target him. But when he actually has to stand up to some people in the establishment, it's like, we didn't write that. We're just quoting this article. And I don't watch GB News enough. He's just a fucking coward. And that's what these people get seduced by, right? So if he ever had principles, if he was ever an actual communist, he's been completely seduced by establishment validation. He's been completely, like, his mind has been completely warped by establishment talking points, where these people are essentially no different to the establishment. They are the establishment. And I'm not saying everyone at Navarra agrees with this, but this strategy they have pursued of trying to get in the good books of the establishment by shitting on the left constantly doesn't seem to be working. When you get someone like this, who probably is talking about Muslims a lot in that way, you're then saying, oh, I've personally never heard you say it. I don't watch enough GB News to know it's not Islamophobic. You're going to see why people get so annoyed at him. And this is probably the worst thing he did, which I didn't realise, I think, in my last video. The week after October 7th, there were protests, and there were some people wearing stickers.
Hassan was... What? Do you think Helena would be okay if you did a crab dance midstream if someone like Trump died? I don't know, but now I'm very tempted, if that does happen, to do that. And oh God, I don't know, chat. I simply don't know. Yeah, hang on, wait, where's it? Hang on, I've lost the thing. I've lost the fucking plot. That's what I've lost. Thank you, The Horror, for gifting Hiding for 10 jewels, whatever the fuck any of that means. Thank you. Yeah, I'd have to do a crab dance, wouldn't I? No, hang on, was it? Hassan was asked if he felt at any risk of political violence on some breakfast show the other month, and he went, oh, like getting kirked, and the host really didn't appreciate it. Yeah, especially because it's Babbited, okay? Babbitt was the original neck, the original pain in the neck getter. These Johnny-come-latelys with their exploding necks after the fact, copycats. His was a copycat exploding neck. Whereas on this channel we support the OG Babbitt. Let's fucking go. Can we get some lols in chat? What is going on there?
Hamas soldiers flying with the paragliders, right? So Aaron Bastani, he quote tweets it saying, these morons are doing the opposite of expressing solidarity with Palestinians and helping the cause of Palestinian self-determination. They are idiots helping to undermine the tens of thousands of others on this demo. Childish indecency isn't politics. Politics isn't as simple as being as stupidly offensive as possible. The actual world isn't the internet and your social circle of several dozen people. So there he was, just after the genocide started, boosting a tweet of people who in the eyes of the UK are supporting a terrorist group. So obviously what happens when this anti-Zionist communist who is anti-establishment boosts this tweet, these people get in legal trouble. So during a time of just absolute insane bloodthirsty rhetoric against Palestinians and Muslims, Aaron Bastani thought it was worth his time to target these people. And Mohammed El Kurd, he responded to this at the time, and he said, I'm writing this statement as unfortunately Novara Media have left me little choice in the light of the organisation's refusal to address the actions of one of its senior employees that led to the persecution of 3 young women of colour and their ultimate conviction under the UK's Islamophobic counter-terror laws. I have asked my interviews be removed from their platforms. Amidst an ongoing genocide and at a time in which Palestinian political expression is under attack, this staff member chose to collaborate with the British police and the right-wing media in their campaign of persecution, incitement and hate-mongering. This has caused serious legal and social repercussions and psychological harm to the individuals. I have been the target of countless smear campaigns, which I usually disregard as background noise. However, I chose to speak out in this instance.
To be fair, they did do they did actually have that shit on their like clothing. I don't think it's a problem to like point that out. Like, if you unironically support terrorism, like the reason. Sorry, apologies for the yawn there. I'm not actually bored by this topic. I'm just quite tired. Because it's Jesus Christ, it's 20-1. What the fuck? How long have we been going? Oh my god, this has taken 3 hours and we've still got fucking 6 minutes of it left. Oh my god. Anyway, the reason I joke about the Palestine action stuff is because they obviously shouldn't have been prescribed, okay? To say that you support such an organisation should not be illegal. I accept that it is, on the basis that it is, and people have been put in jail, you know? But it shouldn't be. Whereas, like, if you're unironically, like, celebrating the paraglide people who, like, kill fuckers, like, you are unironically supporting a terrorist situation. That is illegal, and probably should be illegal, I think. Is that crazy? Am I wrong there? I don't know, like, you don't necessarily have to talk about it. Like, with the Jason Arde thing, he could have just, like, basically not mentioned virtually any of the things he said. But the fact that he did say it is fine. I don't know why, like, I don't give a fuck. Also, this, like, oh, these 3 women of colour. I don't give a fuck what their demographics are. If you put fucking paragliders on you, A, that's illegal, and B, you make the movement look fucking bad. You give Hasbro the fucking golden ticket that they're looking for. Like, they're probably going to make up some dumb shit anyway and say, oh, it's all anti-Semitism and they love Hamas and blah, 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 blah. But don't give them something which unironically makes it look like the people do support Hamas.
Even though it did not directly affect me, because the silence on Novara, an organisation self-described as always politically committed, represents a complete failure in upholding the principles of accountability, solidarity and anti-racism. One might argue that Aaron Bastani's actions fall within the realm of free speech. However, exploiting an atmosphere that is already hostile to Palestinians and collaborating with the British establishment to smear, police and punish us and our allies sounds less like free speech and more like harassment and incitement.
Yeah, hang on, we'll skip back. So we're talking about, he did put the picture up, didn't he? There we go. So the hang glider people, the Hamas thing on October 7th, they went to the protest with these pictures of the paragliders on their backs. You know? Why not just not talk? Well, yeah, exactly. You could just not talk about it. That's also an option. That's fine. Anyway, so that's what I'm referring to there.
His actions fall within the realm of free speech. However, exploiting an atmosphere that is already hostile to Palestinians and collaborating with the British establishment to smear, police and punish us and our allies sounds less like free speech and more like harassment and incitement. Where does Novara, an institution that purports itself to be a voice on the side of justice, stand when one of its staff members causes such harm? Bastani's actions and his colleagues' silence must not be separated from the context. Demanding accountability is not sowing division. What is divisive is putting a target on the most vulnerable among us and the most susceptible to state violence. Novara's above average reporting on Palestine is not a gift they are bestowing upon us. It is as simple as journalists doing their job. It does not give them special license to police our movement. If Novara wants to contribute to the larger anti-capitalist, anti-racist movement, it has a responsibility to hold itself accountable for violence that is produced within its own institution. So it doesn't matter what you think of what those women did and what they were wearing. The simple
violence that is produced by their own institute. What violence happened?
The fact is, they will already have the full force of the British establishment coming down on them. They already have these people investigating them and looking for people like this. And Aaron Bastani thinks it was his job when the genocide started to, let's highlight this and condemn them. Let's highlight this so the police can easily find them and arrest them and convict them. That's the job of someone who's meant to be an anti-Zionist and a communist, who has these politics that focus on racial justice. And then it's no surprising that the people going on about how woke is bad constantly, all these free people at Novara Media, their organisation then helps a dogpile that leads to the death of a black academic, while Aaron Bastani is cracking jokes and to essentially be pulled kicking and screaming to give a terrible apology to save face. And at this point, it's pretty fair to say Novara as an organisation and as the three main hosts rhetoric, there's nothing revolutionary about them. There is nothing even anti-establishment about them. They essentially to me seem like pretty average members of the Labour Party, and someone like Michael Walker.
Oh yeah, so the YouTube chat and the Twitch chat are combined on the screen. So it's not that people have you blocked, it's that they're on a different platform.
In his cuck chair seems like he'd probably be a liberal Democrat or something, and the fact that they even describe themselves as communists is pretty laughable. Communists that agree with the policies of authoritarianism and Zionist control by Keir Starmer, communists that think defund the police and prison abolition in a capitalist society is actually stupid, because Poland suggests people don't like this. And Nationals even defend the police kicking that guy in the head, the guy who did the Golders Green attack, right, saying it was proportional violence and stuff. If you actually watch the...
What the fuck? Did they say that? Oh, that's crazy. I mean, that's just bootlicking at that point.
The video, the guy was done so badly. This mentally ill man was pretty much absolutely finished, tackled by the police, and they got their kicks in his head. And she was criticising Zach Polanski for saying that was bad.
One moment was there was a knife attack in a Jewish area of London called Golders Green. Mentally.
Oh my God, Brianna Joy Gray, she's still around. Did we ever hear from her nonce co-host ever again, or what? What happened with him?
Unwell man who first stabbed his Muslim housemate, then went to Golders Green and stabbed 2 more individuals, and the police disarmed him by tasering him to the ground. He didn't let go of the knife, and he was kicked in the head a couple of times. And Zach Polanski retweeted a tweet which basically condemned the police for their use of force. Now,
yeah, because they kicked a guy in the fucking head. That's not like appropriate policing. They kicked a man in the fucking head.
many people may disagree with me on this. I didn't think that was an illegitimate use of force. It was non-fatal. Our cops don't habitually carry guns. I'm very, very grateful for that. The man was arrested alive.
Oh, it was non-fatal? Well, as long as you just gave him brain damage and didn't kill him, that's fine. Fucking hell. Literally a communist? Unbelievable. What a load of old bootlicking wank this is.
Without permanent physical injury, and I would actually say this is an example of good policing. There's a marauding knife.
What? Oh my god. Maybe they are becoming the Young Turks. I don't know. Fucking hell. That's really disappointing. You're listening to me in a hot tub, you fucking bougie bastard. Like, at what point, what kind of restraining tactic is kicking someone in the head? Oh my god.
Man, this is a good use of force.
It feels like the main trio, Ash, Michael and Aaron, they exist to attack the left. All their new establishment fame and their relationship to the establishment to completely taint their coverage and cloud their judgment to the point where it's just another version of The Guardian in YouTube form. And why this depresses me is because there's so much potential in organisations like Novara or like people who become very successful socialist Twitch streamers. But why is it such a pattern that
Thanks for the shout out. Thank you, my friend. Very successful leftist Twitch streamers. You can only be talking about me, right? I presume that's he didn't want to mention me by name because he don't want to be name dropping and gauche, you know. But he's definitely talking about that.
Every single person who gets proximity to the establishment and tries to do this Trojan horse tactic of cozying up to the establishment, thinking that that will help socialism go mainstream, why do they always become like this? They always become another bog standard social democrat or centre-left pundit who is literally indistinguishable from parts of the Labour Party or parts of the Democratic Party. I think it's just a complete lack of political conviction of like, I am going to advocate for the unpopular thing. I am going to stand on the side of right and I am going to use my platform to advocate for change. These people are just electoral brain poison.
That is true. Me and Helena are the establishment. Hear me. I've got friends in high places, okay? I know people. Zach Polanski follows me on 2 different social media sites. And he's going to be the Prime Minister that makes it illegal to criticise people, so get in good with me while you still can. Okay?
And that the only thing they care about,
in the form of bits and subs and memberships.
And the highest goal these people want is AOC as president or Zach Polanski as prime minister, thinking that's a fundamental.
I can be bought, chat. I can be, 100%.
Change the system. And I would say, if you are some sort of communist and socialist, yeah, it's good to just, if you are going to participate in electoral politics, that you vote for these people over the bad people, whatever, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't have any scrutiny from you. And I think you should always have the bigger goal in mind. Maybe this is too ambitious, maybe this is too lofty of me to think about. When I make these videos and I talk about even the left, my goal is always thinking about the future. I'm thinking about when I'm dead. I'm thinking about generations to come, and I'm thinking about how do I participate in a cultural change.
Oh no, Comrie, for that thing you did earlier, you're already on the list. Okay? Come the revolution, friend. I can't help you. Okay? I can't help you.
This country, because we do need some sort of cultural revolution in the UK. We are completely destroyed by subservience to the elite. We are completely destroyed by this political establishment that never changes and never has changed. We're completely destroyed by this journalist class. And the best we can hope for from the most prominent self-described communists is joining in with the establishment to attack the left. And I guess that's a problem the UK has always had, whether that is someone like George Orwell or that's someone like Aaron Bastani today. Socialists and the left always collapse.
Aaron Bastani is the new George Unwin. 100%.
Collaborate with the establishment against other people.
Was he born in 1984? Possibly. Who knows?
And it's not ultra or purity testing to suggest that people who self-describe as anti-capitalist, anti-Zionist and socialist should probably hold themselves to a higher standard and actually advocate for that political ideology rather than being reformists who pretty much seem to not actually want much change in the first place. So that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.
More fucking adverts, you bastards! Oh, sweaty ears. I will say my opinion on that video was that it was mostly pretty good, actually. And was quite eye-opening. He brought receipts that I had not previously seen. Some very disappointing moments from both Aaron Bastani and Ash Sarkar. I already had absolutely no high opinion whatsoever of Michael Walker. But, yeah. But he was actually born in 1984. Well, he is the new George Orwell then, clearly. That's what George Orwell was writing about. He was writing about Aaron Bastani's birth. It's coded within the book, but it is definitely there.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
Supporting the establishment, sneering face emoji.
Okay, I'll let you off then. You can come the revolution. I will try to have you not shot. That's the best I can do for you, though, Comrie. Okay, just saying. I'll put in a good word. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I thought the video was pretty good. The stuff about a one party English government was pretty fucking sus. But other than that, I thought he was pretty good. And as I've said, I think Navarra finds itself very much at a crossroads now, where it can take a couple of different paths, where it can either continue down this road of like right-wing self-destruction as the Young Turks has, or it can experience growth and get better. And when I say experience growth, I mean more like personal growth, like becoming better as an organisation, becoming better people, which actually I think will lead to more growth, because leftists will actually leftists are hungry for a leftist media alternative. We've seen that with organisations like Navarra and like the Canary and Turn Left and organisations like that. And I think there's room for that, and there's room for growth within it. But you do actually have to put out leftist messaging. If all you do is shit on the left in order to try and gain a support from people who hate you anyway, you end up in the Keir Starmer situation of eviscerating the support you could have, chasing support that you can never have. What's that? What new will new faces fix Navarro, or is it doomed to peril to be hung upon its own petard? Well, I don't know if they necessarily need new faces. Again, I personally think they need to jettison Michael Walker, but whatever. He may do that himself at some point by leaving the left and all that bollocks, but we'll see. I would have said before all of this Bastani was like salvageable, but some of that stuff was really fucking grim. And Ash Sarkar's let herself down a bit as well, in all honesty. Why do people do this? Is this how the media do their co-opting of people? They sort of sucker them into thinking you can Trojan horse them, but you can't. I don't know. I don't want to fall into that trap myself. Did Cav go over the anti-white racism stuff? No. The fuck is that? Actually, no, don't answer that. Post it in the stream suggestions, because I'm going to fucking bed. It is 1 a.m. Anyway, we did get through it though, chat. Together. We did. So that's, yay us, I guess. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with Gareth Dennis and possibly a Navarra employee whose name is yet to be confirmed, because it's no justice, obviously. To talk about rain, or even railways, and government policy and all of that jazz. I'll send you over to Katie Marshall on the YouTubes, and who is going on Twitch. The Noisy Immigrant is going, so I'll send you over there. Okay, yeah, you've all been fucking awesome today. You won't, you're awesome every day, but yeah. He is the Ned Flanders of transport, absolutely. He's got the moustache and the fucking aura. The drip. What the fuck am I talking about? Anyway, thank you everyone for listening and watching. Like I say, I'll be back. Well, technically today, because it's fucking 1 in the morning. Stay beautiful. Stay awesome. Free Palestine. No passing around.